connected to everyone, isolated from everything. Connectivity pulses through our veins, a promise of intimacy in a world teeming with glaring screens and muted conversations. And yet, paradoxically, the more we're linked, the more we retreat into the confines of our solitude. The ache takes root. Are we truly seen, or merely existing as data points in a sprawling digital network? What does it mean to be surrounded by voices, yet find ourselves in a deafening silence? In an era where a message sent a moment ago might unravel an ocean of immediacy, we often forget the weight of presence. Being alone together, a term eloquently coined by Sherry Turkle, reveals our tragic truth. We gather in real time, yet drift apart in understanding. Such is the modern condition. A kaleidoscope of fleeting interactions leaves a residue of disconnection. Isn't it hauntingly beautiful how we are attentive to the tweets of strangers, but voices of loved ones fade beneath the hum? Connections become convenient facades, tethering us to nothingness. Consider our communicative choices, an array of emojis, a plethora of likes. Are these the breadcrumbs of true connection, or simply distractions disguised as intimacy? The paradox deepens. As we forge digital paths, we forget the touch of a hand or the depth of a gaze. And then there's the seed. How can we be so close yet still fear the vulnerability it demands? The gap widens, where silence grows louder in the spaces between sentences. What lies on the other side of this disillusionment? A yearning for real connection, a desire to be known beyond the pixels, beyond the curated selves we project into the void. Yet, we dwell in an echo chamber of our own making. And here's the catch. The heart that beats within this web often cries out, unheard. So, we must ask ourselves, what connects us? Our online personas, or the raw humanity tremoring beneath? As the light dims, perhaps it's time to strip away the layers of artificiality. Confront the void, embrace vulnerability. Remember that isolation can be broken, piece by piece, by a committed openness to one another's truths. Sit with this. What if the source of connection is vulnerability, birthed in presence, within the shared quiet of real space? And the void stares back. Too much information. Lack of wisdom. In an age ruled by relentless streams of data, where every thought flutters through billions of pixels, we find ourselves submerged in this ocean of information. Too much of everything, yet less of what matters, wisdom. As the digital symphony crescendos, clarity dissolves into chaos. Are we learners or mere accumulators of trivia? What does it mean to know something when knowledge seems devoid of understanding? This paradox churns at the heart of our existential crisis. We are bombarded by headlines, tweets, and opinion articles, yet genuine insight eludes our grasp, hidden behind a curtain of noise. The philosopher Socrates posed a fundamental question: what is it to know? In a world overflowing with facts, do we inquire deeply or just accumulate shallow concepts? Navigating through the information age can feel like sifting through sand. Grains slip through our fingers as we yearn for the jewels hidden beneath the surface. Information overload creates a strange dissonance. Scholars term this as cognitive overload, another burden we shoulder unknowingly. How does one retain wisdom when bombarded by relentless stimuli? Yet, here lies the beautiful despair. In seeking truth amidst false clarity, we learn to discern the noise. Wisdom isn't about hoarding data. It's the rich tapestry woven from experience, reflection, and depth. What if, instead of absorbing facts, we immersed ourselves in understanding? What if we paused, listened, and engaged in dialogue? In the stillness that follows intellectual chaos, there emerges a glimmer of revelation, a spark igniting the flame of understanding. Can we alight that spark, even when the world tempts us to drown in infinite streams? Let us shift our focus to the contours of constancy amid the fleeting. Dare to seek wisdom in the spaces between information. And in that quiet pursuit, perhaps we find a deeper truth. Sit with this. What if wisdom resides not in abundance, but in restraint, in the artful crafting of inquiry? And the void stares back. Damnst more choices, less freedom. Choice is lauded as the essence of autonomy, a buffet of delights where every option contains the promise of happiness. Yet paradoxically, each choice can bind us tighter in invisible chains. The more we have, the less we know what freedom feels like. How is it that abundance has led us to an incessant anxiety, a dread of decisions that sap our will to choose? Imagine standing before the endless rows of ice cream flavors, a metaphor for our choices. Why does this delight morph into a source of anxiety? It is here that Barry Schwartz's concept of the paradox of choice emerges. More choices lead to paralysis, not freedom. With every option comes weight. Should I choose coconut or raspberry? What if the chocolate is better? Each choice becomes a double-edged sword, slicing into the flesh of satisfaction. Amidst this chaos lies an unspoken truth. As we wade through possibilities, we lose sight of what brings us joy. Freedom morphs into a relentless search for the perfect choice, happiness dulled by the fear of making the wrong one. It's a dance where we twirl in circles, caught in a labyrinth of desire and despair. Yet, perhaps freedom isn't about choice at all. What if true liberation stems from guiding principles, from values that illuminate the path in the shadows of uncertainty? Consider this. In doing less, we might embrace the richness of what we choose. Less is often more. Imagine choosing with intention, limiting options to find clarity. Where does this journey lead? To a revelation of both simplicity and depth, that amid myriad choices lies the essence of true freedom, a choice made without the relentless weights of regret. Sit with this. What if existence is a dance between the freedom of choice and the embrace of limits, and the void stares back? We care for the body, we ignore the mind. In the mirror, we sculpt our bodies. Each workout, each healthy meal, is an investment in physical resilience. We celebrate the vessel and yet the mind. The mind often dwells in shadows, unaddressed, muffled beneath a cacophony of societal pressures. Why do we tend to the flesh while allowing the psyche to wither? Our culture reveres physical beauty, yet spins a web of neglect around mental health. Isn't it peculiar how we judge our worth through the lens of appearance, while the chaos within rages silently? Take a moment, consider the findings of psychologist Martin Seligman. Happiness is rooted in well-being, yet we often prioritize the visible, blind to emotional decay. What if our focus were misplaced? Imagine the implications. Body worship transcended by inner wellness. What does it mean to be healthy when our thoughts spiral into turmoil? We need to find courage in addressing discomfort, not ignore it, to allow the mind to find its voice amidst the cacophony. Here lies an awakening. The essence of wellness lies within a partnership between body and mind. When each thrives, the human experience burgeons into fullness. What if we redefined our health narratives? Instead of adoring firmness, we explore resilience. Instead of sculpting, we nurture. And thus, the dance between care for flesh and nourishment for thought begins. The echoing message glimmers: to be whole is to be awake, to tend to the emotional fibers that weave our identity. Sit with this. How deeply do we understand the interplay between the vessel and the soul housed within? And the void stares back, connected to everyone, isolated from everything. We proclaim our connection to the entire world, yet we seldom breach the invisible barriers around our souls. On our screens, the likes and shares pile up, messages flow like a wild river. But here's the catch. Amidst this connectivity, we drift alone. The weight of shared experiences is lost in the vastness of curated lives. Consider this. Information fills our digital landscapes, yet genuine connection wanes in the shadows. How can we be surrounded by so many, yet feel this deep-rooted solitude? It's a paradox of technology, a spark of brilliance that illuminates the world while simultaneously throwing our inner selves into darkness. We click, we scroll, we like. And yet, what do we share? A highlight reel with no depth. We become spectators of our own existence, muted by the cacophony of others. What once was a call to conversation now binds us in silence. 1,000 voices speak, yet none are heard. The louder the online noise, the more we retreat inward, stifled by the very platforms that promise touch. But here's the catch. Can solitude itself become a companion? We create our prisons, brick by digital brick, constructing walls that shield us from true intimacy. Instead, we nurture the illusion of connection, every notification a fleeting affirmation that crumbles into the void. And as the screens glow with false warmth, we are left with a chilling emptiness. So, we spiral into this conundrum. How do we bridge the chasm between contact and connection? Can we embrace the awkwardness of being, the vulnerability of sharing truth? The universe whispers, in the spaces between those digital breaths, in the silence of shared moments, redemption lies. The realization washes over us. We hold the key to unraveling this knot of loneliness. It may linger like an unanswered question, but perhaps the act of sitting with it, acknowledging it, creates the possibility for genuine connection. And still we ask, can we dare to engage instead of retreat? Can we emerge? Too much information, lack of wisdom. In an age defined by an overwhelming flood of data, we drown in fragments, striving for clarity amid chaos. But wisdom, the elusive gold at the end of the information rainbow, sits quietly beyond our grasp. Too much information leads us to question everything, yet leaves us paralyzed by indecision. What if knowledge isn't enough? What if, in our relentless pursuit of fact, we overlook the power of understanding? The paradox stands tall. Countless articles, innumerable opinions, yet wisdom whispers softly. It hides beneath the surface of our distinctions, waiting for a moment of stillness. We scroll relentlessly, our hands a blur, convinced that new knowledge equals newfound power. But in truth, we become more confused, seeking answers but finding only layers of complexity. Wisdom comes not from the noise but from the silence it creates, and we linger, strangely perturbed, disillusioned but yearning. Yet what if we shifted our gaze? What if we began to treasure questions as much as answers? To see life's inquiry as a rich tapestry, weaving wisdom from our experiences. The art of living transcends the boundaries of information. It wears the cloak of introspection, knowing not every query must demand an answer. Knowledge is vast, like the galaxy itself. But wisdom, pure, precious wisdom, resides in pockets of stillness, in spaces where introspection reigns. Seek that stillness. Draw from your experiences. Create narrative where data falls short. Breathe in the wisdom that lingers, waiting to be recognized. In this convoluted dance of bits and bytes, we have a choice: to gather data like dust particles, or to mold our experiences into something deeper. Are we willing to push against the noise, to listen to the silence dripping with profundity? That perhaps is the real challenge. We take photos of everything, but forget to look. A moment captured, it becomes eternal yet loses its breath. We click, we filter, we frame, desperate to preserve everything. But in documenting what surrounds us, we sidestep the vibrancy of truly witnessing. Instead, the world becomes static while we play curator to our own lives. What if, in our obsession to capture, we miss the essence? We hold devices that bind us to the past while we're fleetingly tethered to the present. But here's the catch. What happens when the camera obscures our eyes? The act of photographing can dissolve moments into mere relics, slick images stripped of emotion. In this artificial remembrance, can we rediscover the sublime beauty of simply being? The fleeting brilliance of sunlight spilling through the leaves, the laughter of a friend echoing through stillness. Yet, we are here, ensnared by our screens. The miracle of immediacy glossed over by the shutter's click. We are living photographs, yet we forget to look. Daily life unfolds before us, a rich tapestry with colors and textures unseen through the lens. Consider this. When was the last time you truly engaged with the world, experiencing it without the barrier of a camera? Attempting to encapsulate every nuance both distances and disconnects us. And yet, the essence remains. The beauty awaits beneath the surface of frozen images. Perhaps we must reclaim our sight. Let the act of witnessing unfold without the pressure of preservation. Opening our eyes wider, we can excavate happiness, sorrow, connection, and love. What if the world demands not documentation, but presence? To be not just an observer, but an engaged participant in the chaos of life. The eye's potential lies in its reluctance to freeze, in grasping moments fleeted by sound and scent and presence. Let us not forget the act of looking itself, for when we embrace the fleeting, we find depth. We live longer, but with less time. Longevity, we are told, is the blessing of our age. Healthcare has stitched the seams of mortality, extending lives into years once unfathomable. But here lies the irony. With the gift of additional time comes an excruciating paradox. We are forever running against the clock. What does it mean to live longer, yet feel ensnared in a frantic pace? As our days swell in number, our time slips through our fingers like sand. We rush. The calendar fills with obligations, each tick and tock pressing against the promise of moments yet to come. Imagine this, our lives shaped by searchable calendars and relentless notifications. The irony speaks volumes. In striving for more time, we inadvertently neglect the precious moments that breathe today. Time, in its infinite cruelty, becomes an adversary, making us prisoners of our own endeavors. Is this what we sought in extending our years? A cycle of ceaseless activity, chasing a destination while muffling the joy of the present? But here's an invitation. What if we sought reprieve in the span of seconds, rather than extending the minutes? To linger in laughter, to savor a cup of coffee as though each sip may be our last. The notion of less time takes root not in minutes clocked, but in experiences felt. Can we confront this illusion of scarcity? We wish for time yet squander it on distractions, preventing joy from seeping into our bones. This paradox reveals the truth of existence. Living fully requires a gentle embrace of the now, irrespective of how many tomorrows stretch outward. The essence lies not in the tally, but in connection, reverence, and presence. So, how will you fill each moment? Will you glide through the motions or embrace the artistry of living? In this endless chase for extension, recall the paradox. More years may not equal more time, and the void stares back. We have a voice, but no one listens. We live in a cacophony of cries. Voices tethered to devices, tapping, swiping, sending vibrations through a digital ether. In this interconnected realm, the irony cuts deep. We've carved out platforms for expression, yet few hear the echoes of sincerity. What is it to shout into the void, only to receive silence in return? Our words flow endlessly, like rivers to the sea. One would think the world thirsty for truth. But perhaps it craves only sound bites, sensationalism. A fleeting headline resonates louder than heartfelt prose. The depth of our longing is lost in the flood of triviality. But here's the catch. What if the louder we scream, the more we drown in indifference? We clutch our voices like a talisman, a badge of enfranchisement in an age of superficiality. Yet, The tantalizing promise of engagement slips through our fingers like sand. Silence feels suffocating, it gnaws. There's a haunting chasm between intention and impact. Dr. David Myers, a social psychologist, notes the illusion of transparency, the belief that our inner experiences are visible to others, when in reality, they are cloaked in mystery. Maybe we misread empathy, mistaking noise for listening, image for insight. What does it mean to be acknowledged, to exist, even within the confines of the crowded sphere, isolated in a buzz of white noise? We thirst for connection, yet build walls. The paradox is gruesome, shouting into the ether, hands raised in desperation, our cries drowning beneath the weight of curated lives. And yet, we cling to hope. A flicker remains, a spark that, despite the overwhelming tide, can ignite a change. When we speak our truth, stripped of the need for validation, it echoes back, reverberating through the unheard spaces, not for the masses, but in communion with the few who dare to listen. Perhaps it's in those silent moments when the deepest connections form, where vulnerability softens the edges and invites kinship. So, what will you do with your voice? Will you drown in despair or create ripples? Sit with this. The silence that surrounds us is not the absence of sound, but an invitation to deeper listening. The void awaits. We demand empathy, but mock others' vulnerability. Empathy is a buzzword in our age, tossed around like confetti at a parade we all seem to attend. We wear it like a cloak, draping ourselves in its fabric while holding the scissors of scorn ready to snip. Vulnerability contorts under our gaze, exposed flesh in a world of cold, critical eyes. But here's the paradox. How can we call for empathy while unleashing ridicule upon those who dare to be raw? Our cries for connection ring hollow as we swipe past the pain of others, taking jabs at their nakedness. The mirror reflects our cowardice, our reluctance to embrace the wretched chaos that thrives within us. What if this mockery is simply a desperate shield? An avoidance tactic born from the same fragility that we criticize in others. We may demand a sanctuary for our scars, yet cast stones at those whose wounds bleed openly. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche claimed, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Yet in the rift of our double standards, where is the why when our how is laced with disdain? Perhaps the real tragedy lies in the hypocrisy that festers beneath our crafted facades. We consume mindfulness amidst the chaos we choose, so comfortable with our discomfort. The irony thickens. Practice compassion, yet laugh away the tears. Can we ever embrace the beauty of our brokenness if we continue to box others in shame? And yet, beneath the surface of disdain lies a quiet yearning. A whisper that reveals empathy is not only a gift we give, but an act we must learn. The challenge is to embrace vulnerability, to understand that every crumpled layer we peel back comes from the same well of human experience. So, let us challenge ourselves. Can we weave our empathy into the fabric of our interactions? Fit it with acceptance, not as a mantle, but as a foundation. Sit with this. The journey toward empathy begins in vulnerability's embrace, not its mockery. In the end, it's the void we fill with understanding that echoes the loudest. We consume mindfulness amidst the chaos we choose. In a world swirling with noise, we grasp at mindfulness like drifting paper. A mantra to calm the storm, yet it falters amid our frenetic lifestyles. We preach stillness while our surroundings pulse with chaos, like a heartbeat in a city that never sleeps. Isn't it ironic? What does it mean to be mindful when the very act becomes just another box to check? To breathe deeply as the chaotic tide crashes and recedes, leaves us gasping for recognition of authenticity beneath layers of curated existence. But here's the catch. Mindfulness itself becomes another commodity, a fleeting trend, a product sold in neat packages. We've fashioned rituals of awareness, yet cling to distractions that siphon our peace. We crave clarity, yet drown in the flicker of our screens, embracing the noise while extolling the virtues of the present moment. Psychologist John Kabat-Zinn reminds us that mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment. But who are we when every moment is fractured by artificial connections? Do these moments of clarity truly exist, or are they mere illusions constructed to mask the chaos? And yet, within this paradox blooms a strange beauty, a profound understanding that chaos and calm coexist within the same breath. Each distraction is an invitation to pause, a reminder to confront the layers of ourselves that yearn for attention, just as we seek to give it. So perhaps we must dare to venture into the tumult, not to dissolve into chaos, but to harness its energy, to allow mindfulness to breathe amidst the noise, to create space for authenticity in our engagements. Sit with this. Every moment is a choice, an opportunity to listen deeply, to find stillness within the storm. And remember, amidst the raucous symphony of life, serenity whispers through the cracks. We sell self-esteem, we buy insecurity. In this marketplace of identities, self-esteem is packaged and priced, sitting neatly beside the aisle of vulnerabilities. We barter our worth, convinced we can buy the transforming elixir of confidence wrapped in glossy promises. But like a mirage in the desert, it slips away just as we grasp it, leaving us thirsting for validation. We scroll through curated lives, measuring ourselves against the gilded frames of others, an endless loop between admiration and envy. The shimmering self-portraits draw us in, but at what cost? Our insecurities fester beneath the surface, silently gnawing at the very essence of our beings. But here's the catch. What if by seeking external affirmations, we empower our own insecurities? The roots of comparison twist deeper, leaving us tangled in a web of inadequacy. Isn't it ironical that in pursuit of self-worth, we create worlds that reflect our fears? Psychological theory suggests what's at play here is social comparison, the tendency to assess ourselves in relation to others. It becomes an addiction that warps our reality, presenting an illusion that we can only shatter through genuine introspection. In this space of relentless measuring, how can we nurture self-esteem? And yet, amidst this chaos lies a flickering truth. It reveals that self-esteem is not a scarce commodity. It grows organically from the soil of acceptance, not through validation from others, but in embracing who we are, raw, flawed, imperfectly human. So, let's untangle this narrative. Can we shift our gaze towards internal worth rather than external appearances? Recognize the whisper of self-love buried under the weight of expectation. Sit with this. The currency of true self-esteem is acceptance and will flourish in the garden of self-compassion. We must choose to invest in ourselves, to cultivate the fertile soil from which self-esteem blossoms. The void we seek to fill with admiration often reveals itself when we dare to embrace our insecurities. We defend the planet. And click, buy now. We defend the planet, and click, buy now. The irony is palpable. A world on the brink of ecological collapse, where noble voices rally for Mother Earth, yet the cursor hovers over carts filled with synthetic plastic dreams. It's a contradiction we wear like armor against guilt, a facade of justice masking our consumptive habits. What if this dichotomy isn't just the norm, but the very fabric of our existence? In acknowledging our deeds, we must confront the paradox. Can one truly advocate for nature while suffocating it with demand? The modern ecologist, armed with hashtags and slogans, might argue that each click is a step towards awareness. Yet how many of these actions nourish genuine change? History whispers quietly. Think of the earliest environmental movements rooted in sacrifice and authenticity long before. Commerce co-opted consciousness. Yet here we are, drowning in choices designed to soothe our conscience while deepening the wounds. But here's the catch. Consumption is easy. a fleeting dopamine fix, a virtual high from a simple transaction. We crave the righteousness of protecting what we love, yet we erase that love with every unnecessary purchase. Each product becomes a tether, pulling us deeper into a cycle that defies both compassion and accountability. Where is the balance between desire and responsibility? And yet, the paradox grips us tighter. We believe in sustainability, yet our actions reflect a world feasting upon fleeting comforts. The earth pleads, while we justify yet another Amazon Prime delivery, a disconnect that breeds apathy, wrapped in vibrant packaging. How can we reconcile our longing for a planet rich in life with our contribution to suffocation? Perhaps we seek an identity more resonant than our material footprint. A jewel exists within this turmoil. Consumerism does not merely reflect demand, it constructs reality. Every click etches a narrative in the fabric of existence. As we ponder, we find ourselves standing at the edge of change, beckoning us to redefine, to act, not just react, to preserve rather than consume blindly. The last line remains unwritten. What will we choose? Each reflection carries weight, each click a decision, and the void widens beneath our distractive clutter. While we have 1,000 friends, and a void no one fills, we have 1,000 friends, and a void no one fills. In a digital age defined by connectivity, the irony seems blatant, an expansive network that deepens loneliness, urging us to click Add Friend, while our souls scream for deeper connection. What does it mean to connect, if those connections are mere echoes bouncing off the walls of isolation? We swim in a pool of curated identities, polished images meant to mask the emptiness we each harbour. The paradox lingers. How can one feel so isolated amidst a vast tapestry of human existence? The ancient Greeks understood the weight of friendship. Their connections were forged in the crucible of shared experiences, not mere pixels on a screen. And yet, like moths drawn to digital flames, we scroll, seeking warmth in the cold glow of our devices. Each notification resonates with promise, a dopamine rush, a phantom comfort that vanishes as swiftly as it arrives. The emptiness burgeons, and when the metrical clicks quiet down, we confront the chasm we've tried so desperately to ignore. What if our search for connection is fundamentally flawed? Instead of building walls adorned with faces, we could cross the thresholds of intimacy. Every like does not equate to being seen. Yet, in this paradoxical landscape, the hunger for real contact only grows stronger. What if we decided to reject the superficial and chase the genuine? One observation crystallizes. Loneliness in a crowd is more profound than solitude. Resilience, when honed in isolation, sometimes flourishes into an understanding of self that transcends the fleeting nature of social validation. Emotionally, we sit in dissonance as the connections we crave elude our grasp, refusing to fill the void. As we confront the vastness of our interactions, we must reflect. What truly cultivates depth in this digital age? The answer remains elusive, yet endless reflections weave a path forward, beyond clicks and likes, towards authentic conversations, and the void looms larger, quietly waiting for our next move. We celebrate the body, but hate the mirror. We celebrate the body, but hate the mirror. In a world saturated with images of physical perfection, we are caught in a strange dance, adoring the form, yet despising its reflection. What arises in this warped relationship between perception and reality? The paradox forms, burgeoning beneath layers of self-judgment. How can we profess love for our bodies while recoiling from what we see? The mirror reflects not just flesh, but perceptions, fears, and cultural expectations that warp our understanding of self-worth. As if caught in a modern-day Narcissus's tale, we admire the beauty of others while repelling our own visage. But here's the catch. Each day, we wage a war not just against our skin, but against the conditioning of societal ideals. Popular culture reverberates with messages glorifying unattainable standards, inviting us to adhere, even as we gasp at our perceived deficiencies. Consider how the Renaissance celebrated the human form, embodying beauty as art, not a weapon to wield against oneself. Yet in this war of aesthetics, something powerful swells, a recognition of humanity within imperfection. Our bodies echo stories of existence, resilience painted in scars and vulnerabilities. Society prompts us to turn away, but beneath that surface lies the essence of life lived fully. What if, instead of resisting, we accepted the imperfections that make us uniquely human? A subtle truth emerges amid the chaos. The body is not merely the outer shell, it's the vessel of experience. To celebrate life means embracing the flaws, the lines, the shadows that dance across landscapes upon our skin. It's an invitation to redefine beauty, not as a fixed measure, but as an expansive spectrum of existence. As we grapple with these contradictory urges, we inch closer to authenticity. The reflections we once feared can become allies in our journey towards self-acceptance. With every gaze into the mirror, we must ask, how can we honor our bodies rather than shun them? And so, the mirror tells us truths we often escape. It holds both beauty and complexity, openly awaiting our embrace. We want transparency, but use filters on everything. We want transparency, but use filters on everything. The need to showcase authenticity collides head-on with a culture steeped in perfectionism. In a world where every moment can be curated, the essence of truth becomes obscured. But what happens when the quest for clarity is compromised by a haze of artifice? The paradox bites, affecting our interactions at every level. As we crave unfiltered reflections of reality, we simultaneously wrap our lives in layers that dull vulnerability. Social media, a theatre of the absurd, becomes our canvas, painted with strokes of envy, confidence, and selective honesty. The philosopher Marshall McLuhan noted, "The medium is the message. But which message do we truly wish to convey?" And yet, herein lies the heartbreak. Our desire for genuine connection, unmarred by pretense, collides with our instinct to portray an ideal that is, at best, a facade. We craft illusions, blurring reality until it morphs into something delicate and dreamlike. This leaves us on a precipice, teetering between authenticity and the fear of being seen. As we sift through this landscape, we find ourselves questioning the weight we place on appearance. In them, we might sift through the works of art that echo ideas of truth, like the great avant-garde movements, which sought to strip back layers to get to the raw essence of life. Yet are we not just as guilty of continuing to embellish, decorating our truths in filters? What if the most revolutionary choice is embracing the unfiltered chaos? Within every fracture lies a story. Beneath every glossy finish, a truth yearning to emerge. In the end, it's a matter of navigating the delicate balance of exposure and authenticity. Sitting with this duality can be uncomfortable, but therein lies the path to liberation. Perhaps it's time we peeled away the layers and confronted what lies beneath. And in that moment, clarity whispers through the noise. We talk about love, but run from intimacy. We talk about love, but run from intimacy. In our world of fleeting moments curated through screens, the term love slips easily off the tongue, a band-aid for a deeper wound. We exchange it like currency, yet recoil from the act of truly knowing another. What is it about the raw, unfiltered connections that we so ardently avoid? Maybe it's the fear, an existential dread that whispers, to truly connect is to invite vulnerability. Each heartbeat, a reminder of our fragility. We dance in circles, brandishing our emotional shields, social media, the new armory. We post, share, and like, yet behind the veil of emojis lies a chasm of disconnection. Here's the catch. Intimacy demands exposure. And in a world that prizes gloss, we've become adept at hiding. Playing roles in a theatre of idealized selves, we perform romantic gestures while clutching the coldness of isolation. In an age of relentless comparison, authenticity becomes a relic. Can two souls collide without fearing the explosion? Yet there is a paradox. While love offers safety, we retreat into the comfort of superficiality. We long for connection, yet the echo of selfies overshadows the intimacy of shared silence. What if true love is simply this, a fearless plunge into vulnerability? And the irony sits heavy. Our advances in communication have birthed the ultimate paradox, an epidemic of loneliness masked by the illusion of togetherness. In seeking love, we overlook the quiet truths within. To know someone is to peel back layers, to navigate the depths of their soul. What treasures lie buried beneath the surface, waiting patiently for discovery? As we contemplate this, the question lingers. Is intimacy the ultimate act of courage, or the sweetest form of vulnerability? True love holds the mirror, exposing our naked selves. Are we brave enough to face what stares back? We cry for truth, but click on lies. We cry for truth, but click on lies. In this cacophony of information, we've become clients of deception. Swiping through the curated chaos, we feast on headlines crafted with the intent to provoke, to hook, to distract. Reality becomes a commodity, repackaged for consumption. What if the tragedy lies within the act of looking away? Somewhere in our quest for validation, we've normalized the art of selective ignorance. Every click, a step deeper into the web of our own making. We know the whispers of truth dipped in manipulation, yet balanced delicately on the edge of oblivion. But here's the catch. To seek truth demands courage. It asks us to be uncomfortable in our assumptions, to peel back the layers obscuring clarity. We hesitate, unsure of the weight that heavy reality might bear. We prefer the numbing comfort of lies to the cold sting of genuine understanding. What is it that draws us so irresistibly into the narrative of falsehood? Maybe it's simpler than we think. Lies don't challenge our beliefs. They fit snugly into the constructs we've built, while truth often compels a dismantling of our cherished notions. Cognitive dissonance rattles the mind. We can worship righteousness, yet turn our backs when presented with its ghostly twin, truth. And still, as we scroll, we ask ourselves, what does it say about us when truth becomes an afterthought? Are we not, in our own way, complicit in this charade? The longing for authenticity coexists uneasily with our thirst for confirmation, blurring the lines between what is perceived and what is real. As we sit with this notion, the revelation deepens. In our pursuit of honesty, perhaps we must first confront the lies we tell ourselves. Only then can we unearth the truths that lie buried, waiting for the brave to summon them to light. We promote diversity, but hate what's different. We promote diversity, but hate what's different. In a world ever so quick to trumpet acceptance, we parade our ideals while clinging to the familiar. The slogans ring loudly, celebrate uniqueness. Yet in practice, we often shy away from the textures of true diversity, the kind that challenges us, that reshapes our thinking. What if difference is an uncomfortable teacher, a mirror reflecting not only the beauty of variation, but also the biases we harbor? Diversity becomes a puzzle, easy to acknowledge but complex to embody. We wear our understanding like a badge, yet shrink from the unknown. And yet, beneath the surface lies a profound irony. In our quest to include, we often exclude. The other serves as a scapegoat, a label we throw at what we cannot fathom. We nod in agreement, championing a spectrum of voices while unconsciously silencing those who dare to diverge from our definitions of acceptance. But here's the catch. Embracing true diversity asks for radical openness. It's not just about tolerance, it's about genuine dialogue that acknowledges the discomfort coupled with the delight of our differences. What if the rich tapestry of humanity hinges on our ability to confront our fears of the other? The question crystallizes, Can we genuinely advocate for diversity while resisting the impulses to selectively accept? In struggling to broaden our horizons, can we allow the other not merely to exist alongside us, but to weave itself into the fabric of who we are? As we linger in this evaluation, know this: the discomfort of difference might just be the fertile ground for evolution. Are we brave enough to embrace it? We reject pain, but turn it into entertainment. We reject pain, but turn it into entertainment. The human experience, rife with suffering, is shoved aside in favor of packaged narratives that hypnotize us into submission. We consume trauma through a screen, layering ourselves with indifference as if cocooned in safety. Each episode, a form of escapism, the pain of others rendered palatable. What if the anguish we dismiss holds meaning? Pain, laden with the lessons of our existence, begs for acknowledgement. Yet we slap labels on it, monetize its impact. In the guise of entertainment, we sanitize the truth, relegating it to the realm of voyeurism. And yet, casually flipping through the channels, we ignore the paradox. While seeking comfort, we resonate with the very depths we claim to scorn, our fascination with suffering mirrored in every frame. The irony isn't lost. Spiritual excuses for our indulgences paraded as entertainment, reducing human experience to spectacle. As we ingest these narratives, we become locked in a pull, rehearsed empathy in a kingdom of detachment. What if, instead of escaping into fiction, we dared to examine our feelings? In embracing pain, can we transcend its boundaries? And so we realize we might be searching for connection within the chaos of our collective suffering, seeking solace in tales that hit too close to home. The entertainment masquerades as a bridge to understanding, yet can only serve to underline our continuing distance from authentic emotion. As we reflect on this paradox, one question stings. Would we rather stay comfortably numb than feel the rawness of living? Would we dare to lift the veil of pain and find the beauty hidden within? We fight the ego by building personal brands, connected and lost. We craft identities like artisans, molding our online personas into artifacts of success. But who do we truly reflect? The curated self is a paradox, a shield against vulnerability, yet an incessant invitation to comparison. Social media demands transparency while cloaking authenticity in layers of filters. The ego is fed, yet in its gorging, it grows weaker. What if the fight against ego merely breeds a fragment of its expansion? We parade personal brands, carefully crafted yet hollow, like modern-age jesters pandering for approval. The self is a marketable product, the essence commodified. We possess every tool to transcend our own reflection, yet find ourselves anchored to a vessel of perception. Here lies the conflict, ambition entwined with dread, the striving for individuality shackled by the weight of collective expectation. And yet, what if it's all an elaborate performance? Because in this masquerade, the audience demands more than mere presence. They thirst for validation, even at the cost of selfhood. The cognitive jewel here, studies indicate that excessive self-presentation can lead to feelings of isolation and disconnection. And yet, we remain enraptured in the game of branding ourselves, forgetting that the audience sees not who we truly are, but the surface we present. But herein lies the catch. As we strive for significance within the cacophony, we may lose sight of the very core that craves authenticity. Is the reflection you project merely a mirage, a placeholder in this digital bazaar of egos? What does it mean to be truly seen, without branding, without embellishments? And yet, we continue, gripped by a spectacle that promises connection while deepening solitude. The ego fights. It knows not the weight it carries. Our voices echo through platforms, yet the silence amidst our crowd speaks louder. Do we dare confront the abyss of our true selves? Or do we continue to dress the ego in vibrant garb? The paradox intensifies. We celebrate uniqueness while fearing vulnerability, performance disguised as authenticity, the perfect stage for the modern spectacle of living. Sit with this. Among the shouting, the branding, the exposure, is there room for simply being? And the void stares back. We have medicine for everything, but keep getting sick. In an age of miracles, we remain enshrined in cycles of ailment, the flurry of pills, the precision of treatments, yet the maladies linger like shadows in a twilight haze. What is the illusion here? The remedy we wield may mask the underlying ailments, but can it truly heal? We inhabit a paradox, a realm brimming with solutions, yet plagued by the essence of despair. The body sends signals, a whirlwind of health anxiety churns. We navigate this landscape, tossing aside intuition for the comfort of prescriptions. But in this medicine-laden culture, do we forget the mind? Our internal dialogue collapses into a medley of exhaustion and overwhelming chaos. Are we treating our symptoms as substances while neglecting the neglected mind? Consider, too, the cognitive jewel woven in this tapestry. The placebo effect demonstrates the power of belief in healing. A sugar pill can yield results. Faith in recovery can offer respite. Yet, we chase the tangible while the invisible remains untouched. We treat ailments rather than listening to the silent screams of who we are beneath the flesh. But here's the catch. We prop ourselves upon physical advancements, yet without nurturing the mental and emotional facets, we stumble in a dance with illness. We've become enamored with solutions, distracted by the facade of wellness, while the essence of being remains unexamined. Do we seek holistic healing, or merely patchwork for a fractured existence? What if our bodies echo an existential crisis, calling for a return to the silent whispers of wellness? No amount of medicine can substitute the conversation needed between body and mind. If we could heal what lies beneath, would we still need the crutches we cling to? And yet, the skips between health and sickness resonate. Life remains a delicate balancing act. Can we breathe in authenticity? Nurturing the spirit means more than surface solutions. Sit with the questions that arise from this confluence. Where do we genuinely stand on the spectrum of healing? And the void remains, relentless and pure. We talk about freedom, but demand control. Freedom, an exquisite paradox flitting through conversation. We yearn to break chains, to roam unbound, yet we craft cages of control, clenching them tightly as if to ensure safety. In our quest for liberation, we manifest constraints, erecting barriers along the paths we choose. What does it mean to crave freedom while resisting the chaos it invites? We preach autonomy, but chase approval. We crave self-expression, yet dread the turmoil it may unleash. The dance between liberation and restriction demands an introspection. How much of our perceived freedom is merely an illusion? Embedded within this tension is a cognitive jewel. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre spoke of bad faith, suggesting that we often deceive ourselves to escape the discomfort of choice. Are we caught in a web spun from our own apprehensions? Striving for freedom, we may inadvertently kneel before the very structures we detest. And yet, our generation stands at a crossroads where demanding control becomes a guise for fear. We seek the freedom to live authentically, yet simultaneously seek definitions that bind us. What might happen if we surrendered to the chaotic beauty of existence? Would it break us, or would it finally set us free? But in this inquiry, uninvited tensions surface. The control we demand becomes a mechanism of denial. Fear of losing control hinders our steps. The duality remains unresolved. Is it possible to embrace the wildness of life while maintaining harmony within? We talk about freedom, positioning our desires against an inherent need for stability, yet control can morph into a suffocating embrace. The paradox slams shut the door to authenticity, but what if we dared to question the foundations of our choices? Sit with these thoughts, teetering on the edge of liberation. The interplay of freedom and restraint invites introspection, stripping away the facades. And the void, relentless and vivid. We seek peace, but can't unplug. In the cacophonous festivity of existence, we whisper prayers for peace amidst the noise. Yet, how can serenity bloom in a garden bruised by distraction? We scroll, swipe, consume, a culture wired to constant engagement, yet craving moments of stillness. It's a paradox that seeps into the marrow of our being. Where is the sanctuary we seek? What if our pursuit of tranquility is undermined by the very devices we clutch? As we yearn for mindfulness, our thoughts betray us to the merciless tide of digital stimuli. Each ping, each notification drags us deeper into a whirlpool. Where do we find solace amid this relentless commotion? Here lies an illuminating jewel. Research indicates that the mere presence of smartphones can diminish our ability to concentrate. We hold the keys to liberation, yet remain imprisoned by our desires. The irony embedded here speaks volumes. Tranquility eludes when we overlook the roots of our discontent. But here's the catch. How can we cultivate peace in a world craving engagement if we remain shackled to the products of our existence? The paradox thrives. Our connection breeds disconnection. Simplicity feels like a distant memory, overshadowed by the allure of notification. And yet, can we dare to unplug? To break the cycle of consumption and immerse ourselves in the essence of being? Sitting in silence may whisper truths no algorithm could replicate. From chaos to calm, the quest for peace remains alive, like a flickering flame fighting through thick smoke. Stand at the precipice of quietness, if only to consider the untouched spaces within. The paradox of our seeking invites a deliberate pause. Is there serenity to be found in disconnecting? Or will the echoes of our cravings thwart tranquility? And the void stares back, unyielding and profound. We want to be remembered, but are forgettable. Within the relentless march of time, we grasp at permanence, desperate to inscribe our essence into the fabric of existence. A legacy, they call it, an echo of our lives intended to resonate like a timeless melody. And yet, the haunting paradox lingers. We cling to this ambition, all the while embodying forgettability. How can we yearn for remembrance while fading, layer by layer, into obscurity? Consider this. In our quest for significance, we often lose sight of the very moments that knit the tapestry of our lives. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard spoke of anxiety of influence, that dread of being overshadowed by the past. Each decision becomes a fork in the road, individual choices rendered inconsequential as the weight of history looms over our aspirations. But does the desire for remembrance compel us to live authentically, or merely mask our trivial pursuits? We cultivate personas, meticulously curated for the world to see. But in this performance, do we forget the vibrant hues of our true selves? Social media is a stage, each post a bid for attention. Yet in crafting the perfect facade, we risk becoming mere echoes, drowned in the digital cacophony, a constellation of forgettables. If life is a fleeting narrative, how do we ensure our stories are woven into the expansive scroll of human experience? The answer lies in presence, in authentically sharing, and perhaps surrendering the need for acclaim. Witness this duality. The more we seek visibility, the more we drift into insignificance. In this age of distraction, what if true remembrance is found not in the viral moments, but in the subtle connections we nurture? To be remembered means to be fully alive in the eyes of those we cherish. Each interaction can etch a mark, reverberating beyond time. Could it be that intimacy, rather than recognition, holds the key? Sit with this. What if our stories are carved not in fame, but in the gentle memories we leave in the hearts of others? And the void stares back. Wartam, we fight the system, wearing system-branded shirts. In a world exuberantly dressed in irony, we paradoxically rebel against the very constructs we embody. Clad in labels, we adorn ourselves with the insignia of the system we claim to defy. The slogans of resistance ring hollow as we wrap our identities in branded fabric. How can we challenge the pervasive norms while becoming their unwitting champions? This spectacle unveils itself as a bitter contradiction. The desire for freedom wrapped in consumerism. The psychologist Erich Fromm cautioned against having versus being. In our collective fervor to break free, we often become prisoners of our desires, adorning ourselves with symbols of rebellion while shackling our identity to conformity. Each logo splashed across fabric becomes a badge, a testament to our struggles. But do these symbols dissolve the problems we loathe or merely reinforce them? Here lies an unsettling query. How do we rise from within when our armor is crafted by the very powers we renounce? We demand change while coloring our voices in shades of consumerism. Imagine casting off the fabric that ties us to these ideologies. What would remain beneath? The essence stripped of the superficial, a confrontation with the self beyond the layers of brand. Real rebellion demands authenticity, a wrestling with the core of our identities, unbound by the expectations sewn into the culture of possession. What if true freedom lies not in protest apparel, but in the courage to exist without accoutrements, to voice dissent without the need for approval? Sit with this. Can we honor our individuality while disentangling ourselves from its trappings? And the void stares back. We want spirituality, but only if it doesn't hurt. We yearn for spirituality, that ethereal dance with the divine, yet we draw back at the spectre of discomfort. Pushed away by the shadows of pain, we crave enlightenment without the arduous path it demands. Isn't it unsettling that we desire depth wrapped in comfort, yet growth often blooms from the cracks of strife? Nature itself unveils the truth. Transformation arises from adversity, a simple fact observed in the life cycle of the butterfly. Pain is not merely an obstacle, it is the crucible from which resilience is forged. Yet we hesitate, seeking solace in soundbites that promise instant gratification, ephemeral peace, devoid of the lessons steeped in suffering. Caught in the snares of easy spirituality, we romanticize the concept while neglecting the grit it often requires. In the words of the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, that which doesn't kill us makes us stronger. What if, in our recoil from discomfort, we remain tethered to superficiality? We assert our spiritual hunger while curating an existence that avoids the depth of emotional experience. Imagine diving deep into the waters of the self, embracing struggle as a catalyst for growth. Each challenge serves as a brushstroke upon the canvas of awakening, a path illuminated by confrontation rather than avoidance. The inquiry arises. What if the essence of spirituality is found in learning to navigate the storms, rather than shielding ourselves from them? Sit with this. How might your journey shift if you welcomed growth through pain, surrendering to the transformative power inherent in discomfort, and the void stares back? We say time is gold, but waste it on distractions. In the tapestry of existence, time gleams like precious gold, yet we squander it, entranced by the flickering glow of screens and endless distractions. Each moment that slips away evokes the haunting question: how did we come to value leisure over intentional living? Are we mere consumers of experiences, or have we resigned ourselves to a life spent on trivial pursuits? Time once held the sanctity of rituals, of connections curled in quiet conversations and shared laughter. Yet, amid the frenetic pace of modernity, we fracture these moments into fragments, filled with trivialities that contribute little to the richness of being. The psychological theory of temporal discounting illustrates this phenomenon. We value immediate gratification over the long-term benefits, preferring fleeting pleasures to the weight of meaningful experiences. Can we unravel this paradox? In our pursuit of entertainment, we dilute the essence of living, substituting depth for distraction. The artist, Andy Warhol, claims that in the future, everyone will be world famous for 15 minutes. In that prediction lies a truth. As our lives scroll past, we risk fading into forgetfulness, our narratives reduced to mere highlights. What if we chose to reclaim our time as a sacred gift? What if we shifted from consumption to creation, painting our lives with experiences that matter? In the silence beyond distractions, we can rediscover the richness found within the mundane, the beauty of being present with ourselves and others. Let this serve as an invitation to reflect. Sit with this. What if time is truly gold, shimmering with potential, waiting for us to invest it wisely in the fabric of our authentic existence, and the void stares back? We want equality, but refuse to give up privilege. In the grand narrative of human coexistence, we fervently proclaim our thirst for equality, yet cling tightly to the very privileges that prop up our comfort. A statement born of contradiction. How can we cry out for justice while holding on to the perks of power? Is it not a peculiar dance, where we seek to uplift others but nourish our own status? The cognitive dissonance of these dual motives echoes in our actions. We navigate the social landscape, crafting a discourse of equality, while the structures that favour us weave a safety net we're reluctant to sever. The philosopher John Rawls introduced the veil of ignorance, a thought experiment challenging us to design society stripped of any biases related to privilege. But do we dare to imagine a world where our needs and comforts are secondary to the collective welfare? Encounter this paradox. In our earnest intentions, we often tokenize diversity, adorning our narratives with the language of inclusion. Yet, true equality demands willingness to relinquish privilege, to enter those uncomfortable discussions that lay bare our complicity. Are we willing to hold space for both our victories and our failings? Envision justice unfolding amidst discomfort, a recalibration of values, a willingness to confront our entrenched systems. What if equality necessitated surrendering the very foundations upon which we've built our identities? In this light, privilege morphs from a badge of honor into a weight that weighs us down, hindering progress in a society yearning for true balance. Consider this. We must venture beyond rhetoric, into the realm of introspection. Sit with this. What if equality thrives not in words, but in relinquishments of power, of narratives, of identities? And the void stares back. We worship performance, but ignore exhaustion. Under the gilded glow of achievement, we celebrate productivity. Our lives become a relentless pursuit, marked by milestones of performance. Yet in the whispers of our tired selves, we neglect a crucial truth. Performance extracts a cost, a toll measured in the exhaustion we bury beneath applause. Is it possible that in our praise for the hustle, we've overlooked the toll exacted by such fervour? Herein lies the conflict, the culture of busyness, fueled by the myth of relentless achievement. Consider the notion of hustle culture, where self-worth becomes entwined with output, and burnout arises as an unwelcome companion. The psychologist Herbert Freudenberger termed this burnout, a condition arising from chronic stress, where exhaustion eclipses the joy of accomplishment. Yet we wear exhaustion like a badge of honor, mistaking it for commitment. But what does it mean to idolize performance while sidelining our souls? Each accolade, each success, demands the sacrifice of self-care. The paradox unfolds. Our relentless drive creates an environment where our humanity is overshadowed by outputs. Are we perhaps more than our accomplishments? In contemplating this conundrum, we arrive at a profound realization. We must honor ourselves as individuals, not machines constructed for output. A shift in perspective beckons, where we redefine success to include rest, reflection, and replenishment. What if our most authentic selves arise when we step back from the grind, reconnecting with the quiet whispers of our own needs? Sit with this. How might we weave a new fabric of performance, one that gleams with authenticity and grace? A narrative where exhaustion finds space to breathe, amidst the accolades we chase, and the void stares back. We defend the collective, but stay obsessed with ourselves. In the cacophony of collective voices, we rise in unison, advocating for community, justice, and shared humanity. Yet, underneath the surface, lies an unsettling truth. Our vision often bends toward self-interest, each demand for the collective echoing back to our own needs. How can we call for unity while ensconced in the bubble of individual obsession? The irony strikes deep. As we wave the flag for solidarity, we often cling to the illusion of self-sufficiency. Social psychologist Henry Tajfel's social identity theory highlights our tendency to define ourselves through group membership, a mechanism of connection, yet one that can breed exclusion. Underneath our beautiful cries for change, we risk drowning out the individual stories that breathe life into the collective. In this landscape, the complexity unfolds. While we champion the rights of others, do we truly engage with their realities or simply assert our presence within the narrative? The danger lies in conflating our voices with that of the collective, unaware that true advocacy thrives in recognizing the mosaic of perspectives that enrich community. What if our quest for collective empowerment could be transmuted into genuine engagement, where we dare to listen, to honor, and to uplift? Consider this. How might a deeper connection to others soften the edges of our individualism, revealing the interdependent threads that bind us? Sit with this. Is it possible to nurture a collective spirit inhabitant of compassion and awareness, where we no longer subjugate the individual to the perceived notion of the group? And the void stares back. Cham, we call anxiety weakness, and burnout a badge of honor. In our modern landscape, anxiety emerges as a spectre, a taboo shrouded in whispers. Labeled weakness, it echoes within the chambers of our collective psyche, a dissonance we fear to acknowledge. Yet beneath this facade lies a deeper truth. Anxiety, burnout, and vulnerability coexist in our fight for survival, revealing profound human experiences disguised by the mask of societal expectations. With each nod toward resilience, we perpetuate a cycle where vulnerability is suppressed, and emotional fatigue bridges the distance between authenticity and presentation. The ancient Greeks spoke of akrasia, a lack of self-control. We find it manifests as burnout, an overexertion that exhausts the spirit, yet earns the praise of commitment. But isn't there a contradiction in wearing burnout like a badge of honor while neglecting the toll it takes? This delicate dance reveals itself, struggling against the current while disguising our frailty as fortitude. Within the noise of praise for perseverance, we often silence the voices pleading for respite. What if we could undo the stigma of anxiety, redefining it as a natural response to an overwhelming world rather than a branding of weakness? The call for emotional awareness beckons, a genuine embrace of our shared struggles. Transparency becomes the remedy, allowing us to acknowledge and celebrate the complexities of human experience. Each tremor of anxiety can be a whisper of understanding, a call seeking connection amid the disconnecting narratives of achievement. Sit with this. What if allowing space for vulnerability fosters resilience, the kind rooted in grace rather than perfection, and the void stares back? We reject boredom, but are addicted to nothingness. Boredom lingers at the edge of consciousness, a spectre we fiercely battle. In our high-octane world, the dullness implores us to engage, yet we find ourselves ensnared in a cycle of distraction, addicted to nothingness. Strange, isn't it? The pursuit of exhilaration coexists with an overwhelming emptiness, where we fill our days with noise, yet miss the essence of experience. Consider the psychological concept of the boredom paradox. Raised amidst a tapestry of options, we navigate through a landscape littered with potential, yet often gravitate toward mind-numbing activities, scrolling, clicking, consuming, like moths drawn to a flickering light. The irony pierces deep. In fleeing boredom, we capture nothingness, hearts yearning for significance while minds drown in distraction. What if we paused? In those empty moments lies the potential for introspection, a fertile ground for creativity and awareness. Yet instead, we mask our discomfort under layers of perpetual activity. The philosopher Martin Heidegger posited that confronting nothingness can cultivate an authentic existence. Instead, we turn away, drowning ourselves in the superficial. The question hangs heavy. What might we uncover if we dared to feel the weight of boredom? Behind its veil hides the essence of our desires, a compass directing us toward meaning. Imagine embracing the silence, allowing it to cradle our thoughts. Each moment becomes an invitation to explore the terrain of the self. As we redirect our focus, we shift from addiction to fulfillment. Let us honor the ennui as a canvas for reflection, a gateway into deeper engagement with life. So, sit with this. What if boredom is not to be feared but embraced? A space for authenticity, cultivating depth in place of emptiness. And the void stares back. We say every voice matters, but silence those who disagree. In a world that preaches inclusivity, we wield our voices as weapons, declaring that every opinion counts, yet we swiftly silence dissenting thoughts. It's a perplexing dance. How can we champion diversity yet recoil at disagreement? This duality reveals a deeper fragility within us, a threat to the harmony we aspire to create. The layers unravel. We promote dialogue, but often exalt echo chambers rife with affirmation. The sociologist Jürgen Habermas spoke of the public sphere, an arena where discourse thrives in the tension of differing viewpoints. Yet, in practice, we trade authentic conversation for the safety of consensus. We create safe spaces, but do we truly allow growth to incubate within that comfort? A paradox burgeons. In our quest for tolerance, we sometimes overlook the discomfort that nurtures understanding. This is not merely a failure of dialogue. It reveals our resistance to the very essence of democracy, the collision of ideas that fosters growth. What if difference is not a threat but an invitation? Consider this. Every voice matters, not just those echoing the prevalent narratives. To embrace dissent is to relinquish the fear of conflict, the courage to engage in the complexity of thought. Imagine a discourse where all voices are welcomed, where nuance is celebrated rather than shunned. In this space, can we dare to listen? So, sit with this. What if we forged a path of understanding through the dissonance, meeting challenge with openness rather than dismissal? And the void stares back. We are tolerant until we're bothered. Tolerance is held aloft as a virtue, a social principle that paints our interactions with the brush of acceptance. Yet beneath this noble guise lies a fissure. How swiftly we discard our declarations of tolerance the moment we are pushed beyond our comfort zones. Is it not disheartening how easily our broad-mindedness dissipates when confronted with challenges to our beliefs? This phenomenon unfolds like a wildly spinning wheel of hypocrisy, championing acceptance until we encounter the unfamiliar, the abrasive. The psychological term cognitive dissonance encapsulates this conflict. We struggle to reconcile our ideals with reactions rooted in instinct. In moments of discomfort, rather than embracing the complexity of differences, we retreat to safety, amplifying a guise of tolerance that crumbles at the mere whiff of confrontation. Herein lies a haunting truth. To demand tolerance while withdrawing it from those who dissent reflects a fragile understanding of humanity. What if we engaged with the very discomfort that prods us into intolerant reactions? Picture a society where we dare to sit in that discomfort, confronting our biases and fears. Evoking vulnerability becomes essential, a willingness to feel, to question, and to confront. So, sit with this. What if true tolerance is found not merely in accepting differences, but in facing our aversion to complexities? And the void stares back. We talk about purpose, but only accept what goes viral. In a culture obsessed with metrics of success, the concept of purpose often becomes distilled into what trends before us. validating only that which garners attention. Our ambitions are swept into the current of viral moments, reduced to echoes bragging of popularity. Isn't it eerie how our search for significance can become a mere competition for visibility? The philosopher Viktor Frankl once stated that life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. We inflate the value of purpose in our discourse, yet skimming the surface leaves us yearning for authenticity amid a sea of facades. While speaking of profound intentions, we often root ourselves in popularity rather than values that resonate deeply. What if we chose to step beyond the allure of virality? In resisting the gravitational pull, we could carve a path rooted in sincerity, a commitment to purpose beyond the flash of mass appeal. Imagine redefining success, where purpose is measured in depth instead of volume. Each individual story could emerge, not as fleeting impressions, but as a tapestry woven from authentic experiences and heartfelt endeavors. So, sit with this. What if our collective purpose flourished not in the quest to be acknowledged, but in the quiet acts of meaning, where the echoes of authenticity resonate louder than the clamor for attention, and the void stares back? We question everything, except our own algorithm. In the marketplace of ideas, curiosity breathes. Questions flutter like butterflies, illuminating the corners of our ignorance. Yet, an unsettling truth intertwines with our inquiry. While we dive into the depths of external realities, we seldom glance inward, unearthing the algorithms governing our very perceptions. How can we insist on questioning the world while our own cognitive frameworks escape scrutiny? This contradiction reveals itself in the digital age, where algorithms curate our realities, bending preferences and opinions toward a tailored narrative. The word algorithm evokes a mathematical precision, yet it erodes the raw complexity of human experience. In his book, Algorithms of Oppression, Sophia Umoja Noble articulates an uncomfortable truth. Behind coded neutrality lies bias, which can shape the very paths we tread. It's ironic, isn't it? We sculpt our existence around these invisible structures, tracing their designs, yet remaining willfully blind to their influence. What happens when we accept the surface without daring to dive deeper? This selective vision can trap us within a maze, where the most pressing questions often dwell beyond our familiar scope. Imagine this cognitive dissonance dissipating. What if we challenge the very algorithms shaping our beliefs? In how many ways do they inform our choices, color our conversations, drive our intimacies? To unravel this tight weave is to face discomfort, to embrace uncertainty, where self-discovery unfolds in authenticity. So, sit with this. What if questioning the algorithm itself, our biases, our blind spots, could forge a pathway to deeper understanding and insight? And the void stares back. Yuchi, we fear death, but don't know how to live. The spectre of death looms omnipresent, a shadow flickering at the periphery of our existence. We build our castles, enshrinements of life, yet remain gripped by fear, an anxiety wrapped tightly around the inevitable conclusion of our narratives. Strange, is it not? We dance gracefully around life's intricacies while shunning the ultimate truth of mortality. This dichotomy often leads us into stagnation, a costly hesitation to embrace life's fleeting essence. The philosopher Martin Heidegger described death as a call to authenticity, a whisper nudging us to confront our own impermanence. Yet we resist. Our lives become occupied by the distractions that fill the void. Work, consumption, virtual engagements, robbing us of the urgency to truly live. Each moment slips through our fingers like grains of sand. And yet, what if that very transience bestowed life with meaning? We cling to the immaterial, seeking comfort in the illusion of permanence while overlooking the beauty found in impermanence. Moments lived under the awareness of death can unveil richness, infusing our interactions with purpose and depth. If we could welcome death Recognizing it as the companion to our existence, can we begin to cherish the present, cultivating connections, savoring experiences, nurturing our passions without the weighty chains of fear? So, sit with this. What if embracing our mortality became the springboard for a more vibrant, engaged experience of living? And the void stares back. We believe in science, as long as it doesn't contradict us. In the realm of knowledge, science shines as a beacon of rationality, illuminating our path with its promises of truth and progress. Yet, a chasm yawns wide between belief and practice. We hold tightly to the scientific method, ready to refute truths that unsettle our convictions. How curious our reliance becomes, bolstered by evidence, yet trembling at the slightest challenge to our biases. Consider cognitive biases like confirmation bias, our propensity to seek out information aligning with our beliefs while dismissing contradictions. The psychologist Peter Wason illustrated this in his experiments, revealing our tendency to fortify rather than question. In embracing science, we neglect the very thing that makes it robust, a willingness to adapt and confront uncomfortable truths. It begs the question, what do we truly value more, truth or conviction? Our attachment to comfortable beliefs can twist the promise of science into a selective lens, rendering a distorted perception of reality. Absorbing only what aligns with preconceived notions, we obscure the paradox at the heart of enlightenment. What if we dared to wrestle with the scientific uncertainties? To question the narratives that provide solace, to allow curiosity to bleed into our intake of information. So, sit with this. What if embracing science meant surrendering to its complexities instead of adhering to our rigid conclusions? And the void stares back. Nor we worship youth, but devalue time. In a culture enamored with youth, we exalt the vibrancy of the young, idolizing untainted potential while casting aside the wisdom tethered to experience. Time, an adversary in this equation, becomes an unwelcomed spectre rather than a revered companion. Isn't it strange that we chase the fountain of youth yet neglect the treasures time bestows upon our lives? In his exploration of the temporal, philosopher Henry Bergson spoke of duration, the lived experience of time intertwining with consciousness, illuminating its qualitative meaning. Yet, under the weight of societal pressures, we've commodified youth, mistaking fleeting appearances for value while sidelining the rich tapestry of lived experience. The paradox unfolds. As we fixate on the external, we overlook the inner wisdom cultivated by time. Each wrinkle tells a story. Each scar carries a lesson, a reminder that life's true wealth transcends physical youth. What if we dared to shift our perspective, recognizing the beauty held within every stage of existence? Time, rather than an enemy, could serve as a mentor, guiding us toward introspection, gratitude, and growth. So, sit with this. What if, in valuing time as a precious ally, we came to worship the myriad experiences rich with depth rather than superficial appearances? And the void stares back. In our cacophony of existence, the paradox is striking. We crave to share our stories, to have our voices resonate in the cosmos of humanity, yet in every conversation, a symphonic discord brews. Each individual raises their volume, amplifying their narratives and drowning amidst the noise of others. Who truly listens? In the fervor of expression, silence becomes a rare commodity, and understanding lapses like fleeting whispers. The digital age, a grand stage where everyone dons a mask of visibility, yet finds solace in anonymity. We text, tweet, post. The more we share, the less we connect. Studies reveal that, in a world teeming with information, the very act of listening has fallen into disrepair. The fluttering between attention spans erodes deep engagement, leaving us parched for validation. But here's the catch. If every voice strives to be heard, how can the music ever form a harmonious tune? Identity shatters in this maelstrom. In seeking acknowledgement, we obscure our essence beneath layers of mediated expression. Do we fear that without distraction, without the allure of quick engagement, our substance will fade? And yet, in our quest for recognition, we wear the chains of validation. To be seen, we must amplify the trivial, becoming entertainers on our personal stages. Ironically, in our urgency to assert individuality, we mingle into a collective murmur, each whisper fading into the next. Is there still meaning in our contribution, or do we merely exist as echoes in an overpopulated arena? What if, instead, we chose silence? What if we leaned into the discomfort of being unheard, permitting genuine connection to blossom? Perhaps this is the secret, to create space for vulnerability, where words matter not for their volume but for their weight. In our dreamscape tonight, when cacophony beckons, let us reflect. Are we deserving of our own presence? Can we recognize the silence that binds us, allowing empathy to flow from our collective void? Sit with this, and the void stares back. We feel special, but fight to be the same. In the tapestry of existence, threads weave vibrant tapestries of individual stories. Yet, a haunting contradiction persists. We bask in self-adoration while simultaneously clamoring to blend into the fabric of the collective. Our identities, each unique, are often surrendered upon the altar of conformity, the very thing that promises comfort, yet shackles us to mediocrity. The culture of sameness envelops us as we scroll through curated lives, admiring facades that mimic perfection. Psychologist Abraham Maslow proposed a hierarchy of needs, where self-actualization lies at the pinnacle. Yet here we are, sacrificing our true selves for fleeting moments of acceptance. Can individual brilliance coexist within the realms of the ordinary? And yet, we battle against the tide. Society demands fit in, while the heart rebelliously yearns to stand out. Each yearning for uniqueness reminds us of the primal human instinct to be recognized and understood, a clandestine desire for acknowledgement. But at what cost do we seek this validation? As we engage in battle for likeness, we weaken our individuality, blurring the lines of who we truly are. But what if we nurtured the courage to stand apart? Would we unravel the chains of mediocrity and celebrate distinctiveness instead? In this clash of belonging and individuality lies the complexity of existence, a delicate dance on the edge of acceptance. The paradox deepens. In denying our specialness, we extinguish our authenticity. Tonight, as slumber beckons, contemplate this. Indifference cloaks our sight. What if we reimagined our struggle not as a fight, but as a celebration of the divergent paths we walk? To own our stories fully, even the jagged bits, might lead us to a deeper, unifying understanding of the human experience. Sit with this, and the void stares back. We want impact, but live distracted. We stand amidst a swirling tempest of choices, each vying for attention, promising impact, yet delivering distraction. The digital glow beckons us, alluring and relentless. Notifications blink like sirens, pulling us from present moments to the virtual ether of endless noise. Is impact quantifiable, or is it lost within the labyrinth of continual engagement? In our desire to leave our mark, we bind ourselves to the trivialities of existence. A flicker of insight by the psychologist Daniel Kahneman suggests that our focus, whether on the superficial or the profound, can shrink beyond recognition. With every notification, every swipe, the urgency to act is diluted. Our attention splinters. Have we become specters in our own lives, existing only to curate our presence? Yet, amidst the transience of attention, yearning arises for a legacy, a craving to be remembered beyond ephemeral moments. Impact seems unattainable as we stumble in our haste, neglecting the depth of authenticity in favor of immediacy. Irony punctuates our existence. The desire for meaning becomes tangles of fleeting interactions, leaving an ache for something of substance. And yet, what if we reclaimed our time? What if we chose to immerse ourselves in the tactile, the visceral, the connection of shared breath rather than pixels? In these deliberate pauses, where intentions find their voice, true impact rests. Could authenticity blossom in our awakened moments? Amid vulnerability, could we bridge the chasms of disconnection forged by our distractions? Tonight, when the world conspires to scatter our focus, let's unravel this entanglement. What if real impact resides not in continuous action, but in stillness and clarity? It waits, not in the bright flashes of distraction, but in the quiet embrace of presence. Sit with this, and the void stares back. We live online, but die alone. In a realm adorned with screens, we pen our lives into pixels, curating every aspect to reflect an ideal. Yet, within this vibrant tapestry lies a chilling truth. We live online, with connections forged in binary, yet the solitude of existence looms larger than ever. What binds us to this paradox of engagement and isolation? The psychologist Sherry Turkle's research reveals our poignant entanglement, a deep yearning for intimacy colliding with the dissonant reality of digital companionship. Surrounded by the hum of virtual lives, we find ourselves enveloped in a disquieting silence. The paradox lives on. Despite endless interactions, our genuine connections remain void of warmth and depth. And yet, we clamor for significance in every post, every like, chasing validation that ultimately serves only to magnify our aloneness. The irony is haunting. In a world sprawled across networks, we float further from meaningful exchanges, seeking solace in compliments, yet craving the vulnerability of shared humanity. But what if, in stepping away from screens, we nurtured authentic connections? What would it mean to relinquish curated lives and embrace raw, unfiltered truths? Amidst the fear of exposure resides the potential for genuine connection, where the weight of shared experience might illuminate the lonely corners of our psyches. Tonight, as sleep beckons, hear the echo of your solitary thoughts. Is it possible to nurture connections beyond the digital screens? What if, in choosing presence over connectivity, we became profoundly alive in our humanity? The pursuit of touch, laughter, and real conversation awaits our call, tangled in the web of screens. Sit with this, and the void stares back. We hate inequality, but idolize celebrities. We crave equity, yet our gazes are glued to glowing screens, worshipping figures carved from light and hype. Paradoxically, we vilify inequality while we elevate the privilege to divine status. Who are these idols? Shakespeare noted, "The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves." And yet, we look to the stars, not recognizing they are mere reflections of our own discontent. But here's the catch. What is it that we seek in these faceless personas? Perhaps it's the solace of an imagined kinship, a fleeting escape from our unremarkable lives. To admire a celebrity is to float in a sea of hope, chained to a ship built of superficial grandeur. Can we acknowledge our pursuit for social equality while we crave the privilege? Can we? We live in a world where reality distorts under the weight of curated aesthetics. Sure, we abhor inequality, yet we scroll past truths buried beneath layers of celebrity allure. A contradiction that lives in our bones. It gnaws at us while we indulge in the latest gossip, a collective sigh masking our intrinsic yearning for justice. But are we not complicit in this cycle? We demand equity, shouting into a void where echoes simply blaze up into smoke. Our judgment is sharp, our breath heavy with disdain, yet we plug ourselves into a machine that feeds us fame over fairness. If we truly seek justice, why do we nurture the idolization of those who have already soared over systemic barriers, leaving us clawing for scraps? Yet beneath this weight, an emotional payload bruise. There lies a hollow feeling, a capacity for empathy dulled by the blinding lights of adoration. We want equality, but the love for the extraordinary numbs our ability to see the ordinary. And the loop tightens. Who bears the blame for this collusion? Are we not the architects of the very inequality we decry? We treasure our idols, inflating the otherness that maintains our own insignificance. Blindness becomes comfort, an escape from accountability that offers solace in the face of discomfort. So, as you ponder these contradictions, sit with this. Am I part of the solution, or have I become a brushstroke on a canvas teeming with inequality? In a world ignited by the glimmering allure of celebrity, can we grapple with the ugliness of our complicity? And the void stares back. We ask for empathy, but live judging. We plead for warmth, yet our tongues sharpen into knives, cutting others before we even know their names. Empathy becomes a whisper lost amid cacophonous criticisms. We long for connection while conditioning ourselves into fortified enclaves of judgment. How can we embrace the fragmented humanity in others if we only see a reflection of our disdain? Yet, here's the riddle. Is not judgment the veil through which we filter our lives? It's easier to cast stones than to lower our shields. At the core, we hold a mirror to our insecurities, projecting flaws onto others, cloaking our empathy in spite. Poorly veiled, this facade shields us from the vulnerability needed to acknowledge our shared humanity. Psychologists suggest that judgment often masks fear, a fear of exposure, of revealing our faults. Are we so engrossed in our own tales that we forget the stories that inhabit the spaces around us? The cries for empathy echoed through literature and life ask us to lean in rather than recoil. Yet we clam up, retreating behind our barricades. What if we entertained a radical thought? What if those we judge are merely reflections of parts of ourselves we refuse to confront? Tolerating the shortcomings of others could reveal the fractures in our perspectives, but it demands an unsettling self-awareness, a pact with honesty that few dare to forge. We treasure our shields of judgment as layers of armor, yet in the process, we strip empathy of its power, a mere ghost of a feeling hovering in the periphery. What happens when we invite empathy to the fore, peeling back layers steeped in critique? We become exposed, naked against the onslaught of vulnerability. So now, what do we do with this knowledge? As the sun dips below the horizon, consider this. Can you grant others the grace you so eagerly seek? Can you unshackle the binds of judgment and reach for the hand extended to you? Sit with this. Where do you draw the lines between empathy and judgment? Can your gaze be softened? We plead as we criticize, yet we overlook the humanity pulsing beneath the surface, and the void stares back. We promise presence, but deliver notifications. We tout the importance of being here, in this moment, this conversation, yet our devices beckon like sirens. Notifications hum softly, slicing through whispered connections, tempting us away from the presence we profess. In the age of immediacy, moments linger only as long as they feed the unquenchable thirst for distraction. The promise of presence has morphed into a digital mirage. But here lies the paradox. Can we embrace true presence while tethered to our devices? It's a tightrope we walk, oscillating between connectivity and disconnection. The very tools designed to enhance intimacy often erode its foundations. The research of psychologist Sherry Turkle illuminates this reality. We expect more from technology and less from each other. We have engineered our own absence. So we find ourselves amidst conversations pared down to mere snippets, half floating between moments. How can we promise engagement when our minds are scattering across multiple screens? Instead of weaving together narratives, we stutter through fragmented exchanges. Every ping, every notification, merely whispers that reinforce our tendency to disengage. In this climate, presence becomes a ghost, and even as we declare our commitments to being there, our attention dances into an ether of noise. Loneliness flares amidst walls of virtual interaction, and the silent acknowledgement of shared space becomes a wild, uncharted territory. As we confront the layers of dissonance, it begs the question, who are we if we cannot listen fully, if we merely exist amid the clatter? Presence becomes a promise unfulfilled, a small death of authenticity where genuine connections wither beneath the glow of screens. So now, take heed. Can you reel back into rich experiences with those around you? Can you tether your mind to the moment, relinquishing the seductive pull of distraction? Sit with this. What would it mean to reclaim presence? To immerse yourself in the lives unfolding next to you, not mediated by a screen. To be where you are, truly. And the void stares back. We talk inclusion, but fear losing space. We position ourselves at the forefront of inclusion, shouting for diversity and equity, while simultaneously recoiling at the notion of ceding our spot. In our quest to expand the circle, we build invisible walls that radiate insecurity more than solidarity. To beckon others to the table is one thing, to allow them a seat, another. But herein lies the riddle. Can we truly embrace inclusion without relinquishing our grip on significance? It is a conundrum that tugs at our egos. We appear magnanimous, yet the work is to, at once, create space while remaining secure within our own endeavors. How can we celebrate voices from the margins while fearing the dilution of our own narratives? That delicate balance propels us into the realm of dissonance, where empathy clashes with ego. The truth, often hidden beneath the surface, kicks back at our pretense. Alienation sidles next to our ideals. We long for diversity, yet fear the challenge it brings. A challenge to the status quo of our existence, a confrontation of the self. Consider this. Embracing inclusion may ignite a cascade of existential inquiries. Can we allow others the right to narrate their own truths without the fear that ours will be overshadowed? How do we nurture new voices without perceiving them as threats to our own story? In this territory, we confront our hierarchies, our concept of space rearranging under the strain of coexistence. Can we cultivate an atmosphere rich with diverse stories that somehow illuminate, rather than obscure, our own? So, as you navigate this landscape, sit with this. Are you genuinely prepared to welcome another's journey at the same table? Are you ready to transform what it means to share space into an act of expanded human dignity? And the void stares back. We want truth, but won't give up convenience. In a world stitched together by the fragile threads of convenience, we declare a longing for truth. Yet, the more we crave the unvarnished, the more we cling to the soft comforts of the familiar. Here, we oscillate between the clarity of honesty and the haze of convenience, a dance of denial. What if the truth is too heavy to carry? We cast aside the mask of authenticity for the allure of easy answers, preferring the lightness of half-truths that cradle our conscience. We skim the surface, diving into curated realities and sensational headlines. In every swipe, we forsake complexity for trendy simplicity. It's easier to click like than to ponder the consequences of our silence. And yet, what is truth but the essence of discomfort? A glimpse of the eternal undercurrents shaping our identity. We might remember that Socrates, the ancient philosopher, believed the unexamined life isn't worth living. Yet here we are, drowning in comfort and pushing knowledge aside, fighting to forget that awareness demands us to confront our shadows. But here's the catch. Can we truly know ourselves without the abyss of truth staring back? In our quest for validation, we trade depth for the reassurance of acceptance. Instead of challenging our perspectives, we breed echo chambers, fortified by likes and shares. Are we living vigorously or merely existing among the noise? We care about data privacy, yet surrender ourselves for convenience. The truth lives in the space between what we say and what we mean. As we recline in our data-fueled cocoons, we paint over discomfort with the brush of assurance. Are we actually seeking enlightenment, or merely the path of least resistance? And still, we desire connection. Deep down, beneath layers of filters, lies the yearning for unclouded intimacy. But honesty breeds fear. The truth, when met, can unveil vulnerability, a door we fear opening. So we decorate the edges instead, spinning narratives that gloss over insights while whispering sweet nothings into the night. As we retreat into digital domains, we suffocate the dialogue that could confront our realities. Thus, we float aimlessly, trapped in choices that no longer serve us. We champion a preference for truth, yet silence our cries, avoiding the tough conversations that reveal both chaos and beauty. What if those layered truths are the very fabric of our existence? So sit with this lingering question. How would our world shift if we dared to embrace the weight of truth, stripped of convenience? Would we be liberated or burdened by the depth of our own awakening? And the paradox remains. We celebrate diversity, but demand conformity. Draped in the vibrant tapestry of diversity, we shout our praises for the multitude of colors that paint our world. But beneath that surface gleams a troubling contradiction, our insistent demand for conformity. Can we truly honor the uniqueness while shackling it in sameness? Every embrace of difference is shadowed by whispers urging the collective to adhere. We admire the exotic yet fear the unknown. In our quest for acceptance, we craft molds, pushing the rich intricacies into bland outlines. What if diversity, so celebrated, is merely a facade for the comfort of sameness? Consider the paradox of the peacock. Its beauty is both its allure and its burden. In fluttering its radiant feathers, it risks attracting the attention of predators. So too do we celebrate the rare while simultaneously policing the identities that wander too far from the expected. Are we applauding individuality or merely feeding the machinery of groupthink? The irony sharpens. We urge the acceptance of diverse voices, yet often silence those that challenge the narrative. In our social constructs, we situate ourselves as gatekeepers, champions of a celebrated diversity that echoes our preferences, rather than a genuine exploration of multiplicity. Are we seeking to understand or merely to tolerate? And yet, in a world that glimmers with variance, how do we genuinely create spaces that honor the otherness? It takes more than mere acknowledgement. It beckons vulnerability. It calls for the courage to allow identities to flourish unfettered by the chains of expectation. What is the cost of our conformity, and who bears its weight? In contemplating these questions, we step closer to the chasm of authenticity, that delicate place where the chorus of voices competes and harmonizes. But do we dare to extend the welcome mat, or do we prefer the comfort of the familiar chords? As rings of conformity grow, so too does the silence of authenticity. We ache for a true celebration, yet we gravitate toward what feels safe. Familiar faces in familiar spaces. Thus, we live in the paradox of our own creation. And what remains but the query, can we truly celebrate diversity without accepting its chaos, without yielding to the tapestry's unscripted design? We are safer, but never felt so threatened. In the heart of our modern world, the sirens of security echo, lulling us into a sense of safety. But buried within that assurance lies a paradox. We've never felt more threatened. How does comfort become the bedrock of unease? We fortify our borders, inventing walls to shield against the unknown. Each click assures us of safety while amplifying a chorus of fears we can scarcely articulate. But what if our sense of security is but a mirage cast by our own disquiet? Are we inviting safety or inviting stagnation? Cognitive dissonance becomes our daily bread. We stockpile information, gripped by the fear of deficiency. Our lives, filled with gradual reminders of peril, intertwine with the mundane, and each notification rings like a siren, a stark reminder that danger lurks beneath the surface. What if, in asserting our strength, we nurture the very vulnerabilities we seek to escape? But here's the catch. Safety breeds complacency. In the sanctuary of the familiar, we anchor ourselves to illusions, drowning in layers of distraction. We have built an empire of technology to foster safety while circumventing the inherent risks of unexamined existence. Are we winning at life or merely learning to mask our fears? Yet, as we drown in excess security, do we lose our ability to engage with the unpredictable? Life is defined by its ebb and flow, illuminated by the unknown, an unfurling complexity that demands our acknowledgement. What if we embraced courage, tasting that fear instead of layering it with reassurance? We lock ourselves in while the world dances outside, an invisible barrier forged by expectations and monsters of our own making. How do we reclaim the authenticity of vulnerability while clinging to the guise of security? So we drift, ensnared in the tension of our desires for safety and belonging. Stripped of acknowledgement, both comfort and threat congeal into a singular experience, reverberating through our lives, a cycle that keeps us from the truest form of awareness. As the lights flicker, we're left questioning. What if unresolved fears are the true path to understanding? Can we redefine safety, transforming it into an embrace of risk? And the pause lingers, as the void whispers its forgotten tales. We seek meaning, but click on impulse. In the frenzied pulse of digital commotion, we yearn for meaning, yet succumb to the seduction of instant gratification. Our thumbs scroll past echoes of existence, but what if meaning, in its depth, challenges that very impulse? Are we seekers or mere wanderers in a landscape of noise? We parade as explorers in pursuit of significance, all the while nursing the illusion of connection through the flickering light of screens. Impulse becomes our compass, guiding us through curated feeds and buzzing notifications. But every click erodes our ability to reflect. What if the weight of existence is too profound for a fleeting glance? Psychologists assert that true fulfillment arises from deep engagement, yet within the digital realm, engagement has become performance. Reaction has eclipsed reflection. Instead of wrestling with complexity, we devour bites of information that fill us momentarily, but leave our souls yearning. Are we losing ourselves in a digital labyrinth? But here's the catch. Every click might lead away from meaning, embedding us deeper in distraction. We drift amidst the hued vibrancy, chasing validation instead of truth, perpetuating cycles stripped of substance. What if the answer lies not in scrolling, but in standing still, where discomfort breeds clarity? And yet, when was the last time we sat with our own thoughts? The art of reflection has faded, relinquished to the allure of multitasking. In our quest for significance, we mask ourselves beneath layers of connection, unable to face the abyss that lies within. What if impulse is merely a veil, obscuring the sublime undercurrents of our thirst for meaning? In this cacophony, fatigue takes root. We long to carve out spaces for introspection, yet invite chaos to inhabit our hours. What if, amid the frenzy, we dared to pause, to glance inward, acknowledging the duality of seeking and searching? The complexity of finding meaning rides on the edge of our awareness, words and whispers tangled among pixels. In the urgency of the click, clarity fades, leaving only shadows of longing. Maybe, just maybe, when we toss aside the impulse, we uncover layers of existence once shrouded in noise. Can we reconnect with our search for meaning amid the distractions? In this existential dilemma, the truth lingers, lightly etched in the silence that follows. We fear being left behind, but don't know where to go. We are lost, adrift in a sea of choices, infinite paths sprawling before us, yet we stand paralyzed. With every tick of the clock, we feel the weight of time pressing down, a relentless reminder of progress. But what if progress leads us nowhere? The paradox deepens. We fear being left behind, yet cannot whisper where our destination lies. What is it that we seek? Maybe it is a mirage of belonging, perhaps a facade of success or acceptance. The world spins faster, the lights flash brighter, yet clarity eludes us. What drives this restless pursuit? The belief that somewhere out there rests the answer, an ideal life beckoning us like a siren. Yet every step forward feels oddly empty, like moving through fog rather than toward a light. Psychologist Ellen Langer reminds us. Mindfulness takes advantage of the fact that we are not always aware of what we are thinking. Perhaps we are too consumed by urgency, by the pressure to be moving, to be doing, to notice the haze that envelops us, to realize we're running on a treadmill, inching nowhere, pumping our energy into shadows. But here's the catch. In our frantic search, we forget to listen to our own hearts. We drown out the subtle signals urging us to pause. Could it be that stillness holds the key? To seek rather than sprint, to breathe rather than race. A moment of introspection could shatter the chains binding us to uncertainty. Yet, anxiety rears its head with every silence. The fear of stagnation lurks. What if we stop and realize we still don't know where to go? It's a cruel twist of fate. We might choose to keep stumbling forward, ignoring the fissures in our path, rather than confront the discomfort of choice. But is it not in the act of choosing, however tentative, where meaning resides? What if each decision, regardless of its potential wrongness, offers a glimpse of clarity? Each step, a brush against our innermost desires, leads us closer to understanding. We crave direction. Maybe it's the question that propels us, not the answer. In feeling lost, we are still alive. In wavering, we embody the human condition, a tapestry woven from contradictions. In the chaos, perhaps lies the crux of our authenticity, the journey itself, entangling our fear with the freedom to explore. Can we embrace the ambiguity, sit tenderly in the unknown? This is not an exile but an invitation to discover what our hearts truly long for. The map to where we go may never reveal itself, and that's profoundly okay. And so, we breathe. We yield to the questions that anchor us, and the void stares back. We want authenticity, but fear ridicule. We parade our desires for authenticity, plastering them across platforms, broadcasting our true selves. Yet, a quiet struggle burgeons beneath the surface, an undercurrent of dread lurking in the shadows. What if being seen means being judged? What if our genuine expression invites rejection rather than acceptance? The longing for connection claws at our insides. We yearn for validation, but what does it cost to show our unvarnished selves? We watch as others are celebrated for their rawness, yet a flicker of doubt dances in our hearts. We see the applause, but seldom the price of exposure. We feel special only when shielded behind a curated facade, comforted by the absence of scrutiny. But bear this in mind. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once stated, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom." In fearing ridicule, we create fine lines around our identities, crafting illusions of self that suffocate the spirit. Could it be that every mask we wear distances us from our core, and yet we cling to those crafted versions, afraid that without them, we would vanish? What if the essence of authenticity lies not in a polished presentation, but in the embrace of our own imperfections? What if the greatest act of courage is to reveal our vulnerable moments, trusting that connection thrives even in fragility? But here's the twist. In revealing ourselves, we expose not just our hopes, but fears. What if the judgments we dread come to fruition? It's a bitter paradox. We chase authenticity while simultaneously barricading our truths behind layers of unwanted armor. Do we even know what authenticity means? Is it commensurate with truth, or simply another performance? Contemplating this may lead us to a troubling realization. Our existence is bound to be scrutinized, yet in that gaze, we find an unusual intimacy. In vulnerability lies strength, the recognition that we are beautifully flawed, inherently human. So may we dismantle our anxieties piece by piece. Let us stand amidst the uncomfortable reality of self-revelation, inviting others to witness not just our triumphs, but also our failures. In that blend of light and shadow, we meld into something extraordinary, redefining authenticity on our terms. And maybe, just maybe, our anxious hearts will find solace, and the void stares back. We praise productivity, but scorn rest. We herald productivity as the crown jewel of achievement, an emblem of success displayed for the world to admire. But what lurks beneath that shine? A deeper truth. Our disdain for rest festers like an unhealed wound. We glorify doing, crushing deadlines, outpacing peers, yet recoil from the concept of stillness. What is it to be productive? To churn endlessly, as if human beings are mere machines. The hustle culture urges us forward, drowning out the whispers of fatigue that ask us simply to pause. Yet paradoxically, exhaustion seeps in. We sprint toward an ideal we can barely define, all while repelling the healing embrace of rest. Think for a moment about Fei, the historical context of the Industrial Revolution. A time that prized ceaseless labor. Advance was measured only in output, and rest was deemed a luxury few could afford. Has time molded us into submitters of our own creation? And yet, there's a catch. Our minds crave respite, the quiet moments that allow reflection and reinvigoration. We find ourselves trapped in a cycle of relentless task completion that dulls our senses, blinding us to the beauty of existence. What have we lost while racing ahead? But maybe productivity is not merely the absence of rest. It's how we frame the symbiosis between action and stillness. What if true accomplishment resides in the ability to weave peace into our pursuits, nurturing our minds as we strive? We staunchly defend our to-do lists and neglect the simple lull of equilibrium that nurtures creativity. In fact, studies indicate that integrated rest can enhance cognitive function, a revelation lost in the decree of keep moving. It's a bitter irony. In our quest for accomplishment, we overlook the balance that births innovation. Rest is not an enemy, it's a partner in our ambition. Can we not pause to breathe, to reflect upon the very work we race against? The beauty of existence flourishes not just in acts of doing, but in the quiet contemplation of being. And as the cacophony of productivity fades, we find solace within the spaces of silence. In this void of urgency, we rediscover ourselves, and the void stares back. We cultivate positivity, but suffocate pain. We line our social feeds with golden sunrises, motivational quotes, and infectious smiles, a world painted in brushstrokes of positivity. Yet lurking beneath that shimmering facade lies an unspoken truth. We suffocate the very essence of pain. We build illusions that anguish must disappear, lest it tarnish our curated lives. Why do we abhor sorrow? It's what defines moments, a rich tapestry woven of highs and lows. Yet, when confronted with darkness, we recoil as if languishing in its presence might diminish us. It is a tragic irony that while we aspire to embody joy, we bulldoze over the human experience's vast spectrum. But listen closely. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Perhaps we need to allow ourselves to feel, to embrace the discomfort as a pathway to authenticity. In shoving pain into the abyss, we deny our deepest truths. What if pain is not a rival, but an ally? In acknowledging the complexities of our emotions, we birth deeper connections. Pain, like joy, deserves a seat at the table. Yet in a world obsessed with lightness, we're thrust into silence, unable to voice our vulnerabilities. But here's the paradox we face. We often deny the weight of sadness, yet find ourselves irresistibly drawn to stories that grip the heart. In art, literature, in life, pain echoes a shared humanity. It's the thread that stitches us together amid our disarray. So maybe we cultivate positivity not by dismissing sorrow, but by knitting it into our narratives. By allowing ourselves the grace of feeling, we become not merely positive beings, but resilient ones. Each tear becomes a testament to survival, a declaration that we lived fully, from elation to despair. And in this embrace, we unfurl peace amid turmoil, cultivating a new landscape where pain coexists with joy and the void stares back. We want stability, but live in transitions. Stability is an illusion we cling to, a mirage in a desert of change. We build our lives, brick by brick, expecting permanence. Yet, every moment unfolds in transition, a constant flux we wish to deny. What if we accepted that the only constant is change itself? A seed of disquiet nestles deep within us, the knowledge that nothing stays the same. And yet, here we are, desperately seeking balance, as though we can fix our feet to solid ground while storms brew on the horizon. The world whirls around us, a chaotic ballet of uncertainty where every choice reverberates with potential disruption. The philosopher Heraclitus spoke of change as an ever-present truth. You cannot step into the same river twice. This wisdom settles in us, unassuming yet haunting. Transitions tug at our comfort. We long for a tranquil harbor, yet each wave pulls us further into unpredictability. It isn't merely external. Our identities shift, aspirations morph, and relationships ebb and flow. The irony, then, is not in the transitions themselves, but in our fervent resistance, as if by denying change, we could retain what once was. But what is lost in our fearful grip? Do we not suffocate our growth, our potential, in the name of stability? The paradox deepens. Stability does not shield us from disturbance. It merely anesthetizes us to the advance of time. What if we embraced impermanence, reframing transitions as opportunities for reinvention? What if pain, fear, and turbulence became our allies on this unpredictable journey? But here's the catch. Embracing instability demands vulnerability. It's a relinquishing of control that feels perilous, an exposure to the rawness of being alive. In lacking stability, we are confronted with authenticity, the beauty and the horror of existence. What if we framed our discomfort as growth? The possibility of rising from the ashes of our former selves is both terrifying and exhilarating. The truth is, our clamor for stability is a symptom of our fear. We wish to smooth life's jagged edges, yet it is precisely these edges that shape us. If stability is the goal, then why do we recoil at the impermanent? Maybe the cycles of reinvention are where we can find our greatest strength, where we can thrive despite the tumult. As we lay our heads down at night, wrap yourself in the acknowledgement of transition. Let it cradle you instead of haunt you. Sit with this unsettling truth. Perhaps true stability is found in accepting that we are perpetually on the move, drifting between the currents of existence, and the void stares back. We preach lightness, but hoard everything. In a world saturated with abundance, we profess lightness as virtue. A breath, a whisper, and yet our lives are filled to the brim with the weighty burdens of attachments. We gather experiences like currency, each memory an anchor, each possession a reminder of who we think we should be. But what if our love for possession is a veil over a deeper fear? A fear that without these treasures, we might not know who we are. And yet, our pursuit of lighter living collides with our compulsive need to accumulate. What would happen if we released the grip on every token, every memory, and every sentiment? This gathering of things, little strings tethering us to the past, creates an illusion of security, We aim for simplicity, yet envelop ourselves in a labyrinth of excess. Psychologist John F. McKinsey breaks it down. Our attachment to objects is often a ruse for avoiding deeper, unsettling truths. We hoard not just physical items, but emotional scars, unfulfilled dreams, and lost potential. The weight grows heavier, binding our spirits with invisible chains. When did we swap clarity for clutter? Imagine stepping into a space where lightness reigns. Cut those ties. Seek simplicity. Our histories, albeit adorned with complexity, should not dictate our present. What if we could break the cycle? What if shedding excess isn't an act of loss, but a liberating step towards an authentic self? But here's the twist. To embrace this lightness is to confront discomfort. The anxiety that rises with each discarded item. What does it reveal about our identities? What are we left with when the illusion of accumulation fades? Are we prepared to face the raw, unfiltered version of ourselves beneath the weight of possessions? The journey toward lightness is fraught with paradox. We crave freedom, yet cling tightly to our excess. But what if we recognize every discarded thing as a step toward clarity? Each act of release echoes a liberation from fear. The beauty lies not in the absence of things, but in the embracing of being, where our lives are defined not by possession, but by experience. As we reflect in the quiet hours, consider this. Lightness isn't found in hoarding less. It's cultivated in the heart that knows true freedom lies in unburdening, and the void stares back. We wish for peace, but are addicted to conflict. We call for peace amidst a cacophony of discord. In every headline and social media thread, conflict saturates our reality. Yet in the depths of our souls, we find a perverse seduction in struggle. What if the desire for peace is fundamentally intertwined with our obsession for chaos? Dare we, look closely at our own role in this battle? And here we stand, preaching peace like saints, our actions echoing a different anthem. We glorify the fight, immortalizing conflict in every corner of our minds. The tug-of-war of modern existence ensnares us. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once mused, "He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster." Are we perhaps, in our quest for justice, transforming into reflections of what we despise? But the contradiction is profound. How can we aspire for tranquility while creating and consuming vitriol? The world thrives on division. It feeds our need for drama. Maybe we resist peace, for in stillness, we are left to confront ourselves, silent, vulnerable, exposed. Hannah Arendt warns that the nature of conflict can breed human connection, but also destabilizes our inner lives. Ironically, amidst chaos, we find community, but at what cost? We cultivate a culture of tumult, hiding our weariness beneath a veneer of righteous anger. Is conflict an emotional crutch, an addictive cycle we ensnare ourselves in, providing fleeting exhilaration? Yet, what if we chose to pivot? What if peace starts not in grand gestures, but in the minutiae of daily life? In tempting silence, a gentle word, or a pause to listen before reacting? It's a delicate dance, one that requires courage to dismantle walls instead of building them higher. As night falls, we are left to navigate the murky waters of desire. Do we truly yearn for peace, or do we simply crave the passion of the struggle? In our quest for inner and outer peace, let us remember that each moment of stillness is a rebellion against the churn, and the void stares back. We love freedom, but hate uncertainty. We champion freedom with a fervor so grand, yet it unravels at the seams when confronted by uncertainty. With a deep-rooted wish to roam without bounds, we ironically tether ourselves with fear. What if, in our lust for autonomy, we find affection in predictability? Can freedom exist without the looming shadow of chance? And so, we swirl in contradiction. The moment we step into the expanse of the unknown, discomfort brews. We scream for liberty, clutching our routines tightly, fearing the unpredictability that freedom entails. The great philosopher Søren Kierkegaard astutely observed that the more choices we embrace, the deeper our anxiety settles in. Why do we embrace the familiar, the mundane, yet desire the extraordinary? But herein lies the paradox. Freedom and uncertainty dance hand in hand, inseparable and intertwined. To be truly free is to invite instability, to bet on possibility without the guarantee of safety. Risk hangs in the air, offering exhilaration while whispering of potential loss. What if uncertainty is the soil from which the richest experiences sprout? As we drift through a world steeped in the desire for freedom, we find ourselves yearning for a structure, a net to catch our falls. Perhaps we resist uncertainty because it holds mirrors to our vulnerabilities, naked truths echoing in hollowed spaces. What if we chose to embrace uncertainty as an ally in our quest for freedom? To see in the unknown not a threat, but an invitation to explore new facets of existence. It is a daring undertaking, a leap into uncharted waters, yet the potential for growth is miraculous. As we lay to rest, let's ruminate on this duality. Freedom embraced by uncertainty. To soar, albeit with a fear of heights, is quite possibly the most authentic experience we can attain. And the void stares back. We love freedom, but hate uncertainty. We love freedom, but we cling to certainties like drowning sailors grasp for air. Freedom, our elusive companion, whispers promises of endless possibility. Yet each time we step into its embrace, we recoil at the unpredictability it delivers. A paradox lies here, does it not? The very essence of liberation becomes a spectre of dread. What if freedom is, in fact, an unquenchable thirst for control? Consider this. The concept of free will is peppered with countless philosophical debates. Are we truly autonomous beings, or mere puppets danced by the strings of fate? The Greeks pondered this linguistic dalliance, a notion as timeless as prison walls, juxtaposed against the soaring aspirations of the human heart. And yet, we prefer to sit at the table of certainty, exchanging freedom for a menu of comforts. But here's the catch. Our lives unfold in a rhythm of contradictions. We advocate for the rights of the individual, yet desire the reigning monarch of predictability. Each choice we make is tinged with a haunting fear, the fear of being adrift, untethered. The irony? The more we cling to certainty, the less freedom we nurture. We advocate for the wild, yet build cages of expectation around our souls. As we paint our identities, a canvas of societal influence looms large. We proclaim that we thrive in chaos, but our every step is weighed with the heavy knowledge of what's expected. And so, we pirouette around uncertainty, crafting facades for the admiration of others. But when the curtains fall, who are we in the solitude of reflection? Each breath taken in the freedom of exploration invites a question. What defines our authenticity? You may claim to pursue the unrestricted life, and yet the clamor of judgment pulls you back, an anchoring weight. We crave the limitless, yet so often find solace in the familiar, the understood. Conformity feels paradoxically like a warm blanket. So, we indulge in the illusion of freedom while crafting our cages. The irony is unsettling. Our desire for belonging chains us to the very constructs we resist. We yearn to dance in the wild, yet fear the spin of the unknown. It's as if we hold the key to our own prison, refusing to unlock it out of a perverse loyalty to the comfort of confinement. Sit with this. The threads intertwine, freedom and fear, desire and doubt, a duality that haunts our aspirations. And the void stares back. We ask for listening, but already have an answer ready. We ask for listening, yet we come armed with our responses, ready to refute, dismiss, engage in battle when silence falls. Perhaps, in our desire to be heard, we stumble blindly over the delicate nuances of genuine dialogue. The irony dances here, does it not? In seeking connection, we erect walls, constructing a fortress of preconceived notions. What if the true gift of conversation lies not in speaking, but in the vulnerability of listening? Each moment spent in another's words is an opportunity to unearth new landscapes of understanding. Yet, driven by the urgency of our solutions, we bypass the silence waiting patiently between thoughts. The need to express ourselves often drowns the need to truly connect. Here's that haunting fact. Studies show that effective listeners are often those who have the greatest influence over their peers. Yet we squander that influence in a rush for validation, a countdown to outshine. When did it become a competition? Perhaps it's when we began to prioritize our relevance over genuine curiosity. But amidst this chaos, the message is lost. We cry out for empathy, yet our answers echo louder than our willingness to hear. Imagine a world where humility reigns. When was the last time you surrendered your thoughts to the gentle tide of someone else's stories? To listen deeply requires surrender, a step into a realm infused with ambiguity, the very essence we invoke fear in our daily lives. As we tenderly navigate this paradox, we must question, is it only our voice we value, or does our humanity crave the unique essence of another's perspective? The walls close in, tension rises. The louder we speak, the more we drown in our echo chamber. So here we stand, caught in a web of self-inflicted whispers and rituals. We seek an audience, yet shy away from the act of engaging fully with another's reality. Perhaps the real strength lies in the art of listening with open hearts rather than closed fists. Dance with this notion, and the void stares back. We want connection, but can't handle real exposure. We want connection. But when the curtain rises, we shy away. Each potential encounter crackles with pent-up energy, the spark of possibility, and yet we retreat into the shell of our projections, frightened to unveil our truth. Is it connection we truly seek, or merely a reflection of what we're willing to share? In this, a paradox emerges, doesn't it? To expose ourselves is to rip open the fabric of our carefully woven identities, a tapestry often obscured by the longing for acceptance. What if the freedom of connection was hidden behind the veil of authenticity? We kite between the worlds of vulnerability and judgment, and when faced with the realness of each other's skin, we retreat. A poignant moment in psychological study echoes this truth. The mere act of sharing personal narratives fosters bonds far deeper than surface-level exchanges. Yet, what happens when the layers are peeled? Are we ready to meet that raw, imperfect being staring back? The fear wins more often than not, leaving us tangled in a mess of missed opportunities. But here's the twist. In our quest for connection, we lay a net of conditions. We crave authenticity, but don't dare to exist outside the realm of socially acceptable personas. Our selfies pulsate with curated moments, prettified and polished, but behind them lies a cacophony of doubts, fears, and insecurities. Connections lose their potential when built on the shaky foundation of illusion. Yet, as we dance with this dissonance, we ask, what if we allowed ourselves to falter? To reveal our raw edges not as scars, but as the intricate tapestry of our being. With every thread exposed, we open ourselves to a possibility of real connection, unfettered by the shackles of perfection. Sit with this spiral of thought. As the echoes play back, know that the resistance often lies not with others, but within ourselves, and the void stares back. We cry for silence, but fear being alone with our mind. We cry for silence. Yet, when gifted with its embrace, we recoil, as if it were a snake poised to strike. Silence, that haunting echo, lives on the cusp of our tongue, like a secret too heavy to bear. The irony sings out, yearning for peace, yet dreading the darkness that often follows. What does that say about us? Consider this. The mind, with its labyrinth of thoughts, dances in a duality of chaos and clarity. Silence invites reflection, yet terrifies those who are unprepared to confront the cacophony of self. Perhaps our vigilant minds fear the very stillness they request, the stillness that reveals the whispers of inadequacy and shame. At the heart of this conundrum lies a psychological truth. Studies illustrate how constant noise and distraction diminish our ability to focus. We scramble to distract ourselves from our internal storms, seeking solace in the clatter of daily life. The irony: in our desperate chase for affability in noise, we lose the essence of the quiet, the truth that lies in contemplating our existence. But what happens when we unfasten the chains of distraction? When silence envelops us, revealing the unseen corners of our psyche? Each hidden thought looms large: the fear, the regret, the unspoken longing. It is a delicate dance, is it not? To expose oneself to the rawness of reality requires immense courage, yet therein lies the possibility for transformation. As we traverse these introspective moments, we confront the thought: does our fear of being alone stem from the echoes of our thoughts, or from the apprehension of grappling with our complexities? Maybe the silence, when embraced, isn't an enemy, but a teacher, inviting us to explore the hidden layers within. Reflect on this, letting the waves wash over you, an invitation for renewal, and the void stares back. We applaud vulnerability, but punish weakness. There's an unsettling dance in the modern psyche, to display authenticity while crafting impenetrable shields. We celebrate vulnerability, yet recoil at its raw edges. What if, in the echo of our applause, we reveal the fractured relic of our fears? Isn't it curious how the strongest among us are often the most guarded? The paradox simmers. To be seen, we must let down our defenses. But will we invite judgment or acceptance? In a world thirsting for authenticity, we externally crave the connection it births. Still, we cower behind our curated personas. The fragile quilt of social media offers threads of intimacy, yet oftentimes imparts isolation. Be real, we implore one another, but don't be too real. Through the cracked lens of social networks, we encounter life through a filter, and in that distortion, the raw truth of vulnerability becomes unrecognizable. But here's the catch: perhaps what we truly fear isn't weakness itself, but the reflection it casts upon our construction of self. If we lay bare the sinews of our existence, who will remain to witness? We are taught to mask our imperfections. We boast of strength, yet shy away from the storms that carve our identity. We are drawn towards stories of bravery, but swiftly retreat from those who bare their souls. The irony unfolds. Vulnerability, our potential salvation, becomes the very chasm that separates us. Yet in the quiet moments of introspection, we must confront a pressing question. Do we champion a facade of strength over the profound beauty of authenticity? Can we sit with discomfort and learn to forgive both ourselves and one another? As we tread the delicate boundary between authenticity and shame, consider the wisdom of philosopher Alain de Botton, who notes, "A lot of our problems in life arise from our insistence on perfection and our reluctance to accept vulnerability. Isn't it possible that our lived experiences, with all their bruises and scars, could be the ultimate testimony of courage? And then, with a breath, we confront that lurking silence. Will we accept our shared humanity with its delicate fragility? Or will we persist in punishing one another with the sharpened edges of judgment? We live in a world built on contradictions, and as the dichotomy unfolds, deeper dissonance beckons. We want the new, but only accept the familiar. The allure of the novel dances on the surface, whispering promises of transformation. Yet there lies a paralyzing twist. Our comfort often hugs the familiar tighter than a lover's embrace. We claim to seek innovation, new beginnings, and fresh perspectives. But what if the truth is that we are merely architects of our monotony? In our bustling existence, we wear the garb of the cutting edge, while inside, we cling to the comforting embrace of routine, like a child clutching a transitional object. The desire for novelty is drowned in a sea of tradition. We keep our old habits like talismans, warding off the uncertainties that accompany the unexplored. The familiar isn't just a refuge, it's become a sanctuary for inertia. The haunting paradox challenges us. Can we encounter the unfamiliar without losing ourselves? What if the new isn't merely an absence of the old, but a bold invitation to reimagine existence? Yet, our instincts guide us into the womb of repetition. This feels right, we murmur, even as the whispers of possibility fade in the shadows. A little-known fact nestled in the annals of history reveals that J.K. Rowling, creator of the beloved Harry Potter series, spent years in obscurity, grappling with rejection before she dared to share her vision of wizardry. Her ascent was not birthed from the safe haven of acceptability, but from embracing the unknown, the wild leap into creativity that demanded vulnerability. As we ponder this curious fixture of our existence, we must ask ourselves, are we willing to dance with discomfort, to step off the well-trodden path and surrender to the possibilities hidden beyond our current horizons? Within this resignation lies an eerie stillness. Our longing for novelty shadows our proclivity for the comfortable familiar. It's as if life beckons us forward, yet we stand still, clutching the remnants of the past tightly. So we must untangle ourselves from this loop of contradiction. We talk about the future, but live like there's no tomorrow. The future teeters on the fulcrum of our intentions, whispering promises of what could be. Yet in the spiral of daily acts, we seem to stall, sorrowfully acutely aware of the paradox. If we talk so openly about what's to come, why do our actions betray an existence rooted firmly in the now? Many live as if time is a river, a constant flow that we can manipulate at will. We plan, we construct narratives, visions that shimmer like unattainable stars. And yet, the moment slips through our fingers. The mundane captures our gaze. The urgent chase for tomorrow thrives beside the lifeless hum of today. Perhaps the truth hides in the human condition. We fear the weight of reality pressing against our desires. Psychology suggests that procrastination often roots itself in our dread of failure, the collective anxiety of what if. We prepare ourselves for futures that shimmer on the horizon, while ignoring the present where life unfolds, mission-filled, yet shimmering with distraction. And then we return to the unsettling question, what if today is all we have? What if living as if there is no tomorrow brings us to the realization that each moment is a gift rather than a task to check off? We futter in the busy haze, devoid of focus, hoping to become tomorrow's architects while neglecting the brushstrokes of now. In the pause, we feel the gravity of the existential spiral. We are beings longing for the weight of our legacy, but entangled in immediate patterns of consumerism and distraction. It is time to immerse ourselves in the now and reflect. What narratives are we perpetuating? Are we living fully in the present, or merely rehearsing for an unwritten script? We admire the rare, but copy the common. The contradiction stands glaring. Our collective gaze dances between admiration for uniqueness and an intoxicating lure toward conformity. We revere the authentic, but our instincts guide us to mirror the mundane. Why? What lurks beneath the veil of this paradox? In the age of endless information, the character of the improbable beckons. Yet we are awash with imitations that dull our vibrant essence. We say we cherish individuality, yet we shape our identities from a template. The rare, the extraordinary, floats before us, a shimmering beacon while we gravitate towards the safe. The truth echoes in the words of philosopher and psychologist Carl Jung. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Are we not attempting to dissect what we have labeled as not normal in our quest for familiarity? The enigma becomes a shield we brandish, keeping at bay the fear of isolation. In a world yearning for the novel spark, we miss the beauty of the irregular, the extraordinary hum that colors our existence. Ironically, in our bid to fit in, we suffocate the nuances that make us who we are. The wild brushstrokes of our true selves fade into monochrome. The intense ambivalence grapples us. While we long for authenticity, what if our silence perpetuates an existence devoid of the unique stories that merit telling? In resisting the common, we risk losing the very essence that ignites true connection. We confront the void, the breath of the universe calling forth the individual flame we were meant to nurture. Empathy born from our multifaceted depths is what truly connects us. So, what if rather than mere replication, we celebrated our differences? Shall we dare to reconsider the cherished masks we wear? And the void stares back. Access to the world, but feel irrelevant. We stand on the precipice of information, yet whispering into the void. What does it mean to hold the universe in our palms, yet feel as insignificant as a grain of sand? The world is an endless stream, an ocean of others' voices, yet our own is muted. Here lies the contradiction. With immense access, we remain lost. We scroll through pixels, avatars, and curated lives, feeling the sting of alienation deep within. How uncanny that at the click of a button, one can witness the dawn of a new era. Humanity sprawls before us, but still we fade into anonymity. A study showed that excess connectivity often leads to feelings of isolation. The very web that binds us tightens like a noose. Why is it that our presence feels so fragile when infinity exists around us? But here's the catch. In the midst of this digital carnival, we yearn for connection. A longing to belong permeates our essence, yet we construct invisible walls with every tapped reply, every filtered photo, and status update cloaked in self-promotion. The irony deepens. The more we crave validation, the less authentic our engagement becomes. We drown in echo chambers where agreement takes precedence over genuine connection. Yet, in our quest for relevance, we fail to grasp the paradox. Being seen is not simply existing among the throngs of likes. It's allowing oneself to be fully known, to invite exposure and intimacy. Maybe it's not about visibility, but vulnerability. What if we disrobed our facades and invited others into our quiet truths? But there lies yet another abyss, the fear of being read, truly read. We desire understanding, but disguise even simple truths. We craft our narratives not to connect, but to protect. The unappealing reality is that in wanting to be seen, we often hide. We cloak our differences and desires under layers of societal expectations, reinforcing the very walls we seek to dismantle. And maybe this is the core of our shared struggle. In a world where everything is at our fingertips, we can't shake the feeling of irrelevance, lost within our own stories. We drown in the shimmering allure of connection, and yet so many languish unheard. So what if we decided to drop the armor? What if we opened the door to our inner worlds? After all, it's only when we invite others in, when we render ourselves visible in authenticity, that we might reclaim our relevance, not as mere spectators in a vast expanse, but as vital characters in a narrative intertwined with countless others. And maybe, just maybe, in that rawness, we would find that we are not alone after all. Talk belonging, but build invisible walls. We speak of unity, yet revel in exclusivity. What if belonging isn't about the quantity of our connections, but the quality of our engagement? When we talk of a community united, we often mean a collective reduced to our shared preferences, our known comforts. But this, my friends, is simply compartmentalization draped in the comforting veil of sameness. The real tragedy surfaces in our tendency to build invisible walls, barriers that rise high with judgment and scrutiny, fostering an illusion of inclusion while maintaining a fortress for the self. We hide behind the guise of seeking common ground, but in doing so, we often reject the complexity of the human experience. What if, in our pursuit of belonging, we sacrifice the very essence of diversity? Look deeper. When terms like belonging resound in our conversations, we shield ourselves with proximity, literal or figurative. Yet the irony unfurls. It is precisely within these walls we erect that the nuances of individuality are lost. The smiles mask biases, the laughter shrouding indifference. We profess acceptance, yet discriminate against the unfamiliar. And yet, herein lies a haunting paradox. Our craving for connection stems from an innate human desire for authenticity. We wish to belong, yet harbor fears that such belonging could dismantle our protective illusions. How can we invite curiosity into our lives when we equate it with threat? The tightrope we walk, celebrated and scrutinized, breeds confusion. It's clear, we label ourselves as advocates of diversity, yet resist what challenges our comfort zones. A study highlights how groups work best when diversity is embraced, leading to innovative thoughts and ideas. Should belonging be exclusive to those who share our viewpoints? What if we stepped beyond the invisible boundaries we have drawn around our identities? To bridge the chasms we've created, we must embrace the discomfort. What if our world welcomed dissonance and contradiction? Maybe belonging lies in the shared vulnerability of our differences. What if we dared to build bridges rather than walls, paths toward understanding rather than sameness? And so, we arrive at a pivotal question, one that stirs deep within. If we deconstructed the walls and invited genuine dialogue, might we uncover a connection that reflects the beauty of our human tapestry? We desire belonging, but that warmth lies in the willingness to dismantle the very barriers that keep us apart. We want to be seen, but can't stand being read. Yearning shadows flicker in the twilight of our consciousness. We desire to be seen, craving recognition, yet recoil at the thought of being truly read. What lies behind this paradox? The tension between our visibility and our actual depth. We wield social networks as mirrors, holding them up to reflect a version we deem acceptable. Our curated lives glitter with smiles, accolades, and triumphs, yet they hide the fractures within. What if the desire for visibility is merely a disguise for a deeper, more primal fear of exposure? The psychologist Carl Jung posited the idea of the persona, the facade we present to the world, often a mask to shield our core self. We publicly crave connection, yet privately, we dread the vulnerability that comes with authentic engagement. The more we want to be acknowledged, the greater our instinct to guard against exposure. What if our visibility is simply a reflection of our fears rather than our truths? And here comes the conundrum. In our fight to remain unseen, we withhold the richness of our stories. The irony twists tighter. We desire intimacy with others, but fear the closeness that demands transparency. We wish for empathy, but suffer silently, locked away in chambers built of our own making. As we hover on the cusp of genuine connection, the internal clash ensues. Consider the words of philosopher Martin Buber, who speaks of I-thou relationships, those forged through genuine engagement rather than superficial titles. But can we truly embrace this if we suffocate our truths behind self-imposed veils? So what shall we do? To begin breaking this cycle of misalignment, perhaps it starts from within. A gradual shedding of the layers we've donned. What if we acknowledge discomfort as a pathway to connection? Just as a bud must unfurl to bloom, we must be willing to reveal our vulnerabilities, those hidden scars that tell our truest tales. And thus lingers the haunting question: if we allowed ourselves to be read, the profound instead of the polished, might we finally find connection instead of just acknowledgement? We want to be seen, but will we dare to be truly known? Denounce selfishness, but love being right. In a world that preaches altruism, we often forget the tender irony at play. We rally against selfishness, yet cling to our truths, defending them with vehemence. What if the very act of loving being right is the highest form of selfishness? Society paints virtues in broad strokes. Compassion, understanding, and compromise stand tall upon our moral pedestals. Yet, At the center of this intricate dance lies a dark secret: our insatiable addiction to righteousness. We mistake our need for validation as a triumph over ignorance. In proclaiming how wrong we think others are, do we fortify our belief in our superiority? But here lies the glitch: denying selfishness while ardently striving to be right. Our positions become rigid. Our hearts close off to differing perspectives. The reality echoes back. While we hold our banner aloft, we fail to embrace the intricate tapestry of thought and emotion surrounding us. What if, by loving to be right, we imprisoned ourselves in echo chambers of our own making? Reflect for a moment. The phrase, "I told you so," slips from our lips with ease, and each utterance becomes a silent proclamation of our disposable empathy. Why is it so easy to elevate ourselves over others rather than walk beside them? Psychology has shown that the need to be right often stems from our innate need for belonging, yet we fall prey to that which separates rather than connects. So, what do we do with this paradox? Is it time to dismantle the pride we wear like armor? To question the unyielding need for validation at every turn? What if we measured our self-worth not by the ascendance of our beliefs, but by how well we listen, by how deeply we can engage with those who challenge our views? Perhaps to relinquish the fierce grip of being right is a step toward true connection, where empathy reigns and judgments dissolve. If we chose to embrace understanding over righteousness, might we find ourselves woven into a more profound narrative, one that celebrates complexities rather than stamps out differences? And therein lies a question that lingers, echoing in the void of our defended hearts. If we relinquished our thirst for being right, could we finally unravel the threads of selfishness, paving the way for collective growth? We denounce selfishness. But do we dare to let go of being right? We ask for space, but invade with opinions. We crave a sanctum, a pocket of calm amidst the noise. Yet there we are, voices raised, opinions pouring forth like an unending stream, drowning out the silence we yearn for. We demand space, space to breathe, to think, to exist. But what happens when the air thickens with judgments and unsolicited advice? Maybe we confuse the act of speaking with the essence of being heard. Yet, herein lies the paradox. In seeking our own space, we trample upon the sanctity of another's. We fillet the layers of one's essence to fit our narrative, insisting that our interpretations take precedence. Think about it. The loudest voices seldom echo the deepest truths. They drown out the whispers of vulnerability. And yet, do we recognize the irony of our stance? What if our voices, clinging to the illusion of authority, merely mask our insecurities? A collective anxiousness that hinges on validation. As we roar, do we not seek a reflection? The image of a self fortified by what we project. But this projection distorts the reality of connection. We reach outwards, demanding acknowledgement, even as we build walls. We praise progress, heralding the strides humanity has taken. Yet, in insisting on our perspectives, we extract simplicity and beauty from exchanges. Imagine a conversation where silence cradles vulnerability instead of assertions, where one listens without the impulse to respond, but simply to understand. This longing for presence, it often eludes us, buried beneath the weight of our own contributions. Research shows that active listening can lead to profound connections. The brain thrives on this mutuality. Perhaps together in stillness, we can dismantle the barriers erected in the name of debate. Can we dare to explore this complicated dance of space and opinion, acknowledging the duality within ourselves? As we dissect this existential dilemma, we face a deeper question. Do we truly want understanding, or do we merely seek to be right? The lines blur, and in the confusion, we remain blind to the essence of true connection. Maybe after all, it's not just about the voice that rises above the rest, but the softer, quieter truths that beg to be heard. So, let's fold ourselves into that silence, not just the absence of noise, but an invitation to intimacy. an invocation to feel the presence of ourselves and each other without invasion. And so we come full circle, yet perhaps not to closure, because what we truly want remains suspended in the air, unanswered. We love progress, but miss the simple. In our rapid ascent toward innovation, we forget the elegance of simplicity. The world around us spins with promises of progress, laced with the allure of the novel, yet there lies a poignant irony. While we chase complexity, we forget how to breathe in the uncomplicated. We stride through life with our eyes on the horizon, but do we ever stop to admire the flowers along the path? Consider this. With every advancement, we build layers of noise, expectations, obligations, cluttered thoughts. But what can emerge within a life stripped to its essence? A beautiful paradox unfolds here. In losing touch with simplicity, we ultimately lose touch with ourselves. Maybe true progress is not about charting new territories, but about diving deep into the familiar. We have grown attached to the sophisticated, mistaking it for meaning. Yet beneath that yearning for complexity, perhaps we are haunted by the ghosts of authenticity and warmth that simplicity bestows. Studies in mindfulness highlight the transformative power of simple living. It reveals clarity often obscured by our frantic pursuits. With simplicity, we reclaim moments, a shared laugh, a quiet sunset, the taste of morning coffee. Yet strangely, that refuge can feel so out of reach, as if uncomplicated warmth has fallen out of fashion. We aspire for progress only to stumble over the most fundamental joys. We equate advancement with speed, with innovation, but miss the lingering beauty of moments undisturbed. We rush toward the next big thing, and in doing so, abandon the treasures waiting patiently at our feet. Why does it seem that simplicity has become synonymous with stagnation? Let's linger here a moment. What if we dared to embrace pause instead of pressing forward? In that stillness lies revelation, a return to what matters muted beneath the clamor. Discovery of the essential often leads to a substantial shift in perspective. As we reel from that realization, we speak of progress, yet dismiss the humble. So what remains when we strip everything away? If we attune ourselves to simplicity, the tirade of noise slowly subsides. Yet this question of value hovers above us, unresolved. How can we honor progress without abandoning the kernel of simplicity? In the end, our vision remains blurred, caught in the tide of our aspirations and forgotten profundities. We reject superficiality, but swim in appearances. A gaze upon the modern landscape reveals this confounding truth. We bemoan the superficial, yet partake in the spectacle with unyielding fervor. To reject appearances feels noble, yet we find it impossible to extricate ourselves from the very fabric of illusions we wear. We are ensnared in this shimmering web, hopelessly dazzled by the ephemeral glow of facade. What compels us towards the surface? Perhaps a fear of the depths. When did authenticity get conflated with vulnerability, and vulnerability become a sacrificial offering laid down for the gaze of others? In scrambling to exist above water, we let our essence drift away, tethered only to displays of success, beauty, or status. Look closely. This clash with superficiality is but a dance led by the insecurities that fester beneath. We judge the glitter, grappling for a more profound existence while ensnared by our own need for validation. Yet, is this pursuit of the shallow rooted in our ultimate search for connection? Ironically, when we wear our appearances as armor, we alienate ourselves from the deeper bonds waiting in the dark corners, the conversations that ripple beneath the surface. We are driven by an incessant need to project confidence, power, allure. But at what cost? The tension between self-exploration and outward impression constructs a paradox that stuns us. Introspection feels vulnerable against the backdrop of a world enamored with radiance. As we call for depth, we cloak ourselves in layers, afraid to peel back what lies beneath. Research shows that authentic interactions breed empathy, dissolving the barriers of superficiality. But do we dare to perpetuate this cycle as the allure of appearances beckons? We find ourselves at the crux of contradiction. In seeking authenticity while draped in facades, we perpetuate the very issue we challenge. Reality fades behind the veil of expectations, fragile dreams consumable by the glare of public perception. And so, we confront a tension unresolved. The call of authenticity resonates deeply while entangled in the shimmering strands of superficiality. Will we dare to shed the layers? In this beautiful paradox, we sit quietly, awaiting a deeper realization. We want justice, but only on our side. A gaze across the chasm of society reveals a haunting truth. Our cries for justice often echo back with conditions. We speak of equality and fairness, yet our understanding narrows when the lens shifts. Justice becomes a battlefield, waged in self-interest, trailing behind the map lines of privilege. How can we call for fairness while clutching our biases like shields? We claim to champion the downtrodden, yet our vision morphs when culpability surfaces. The paradox of justice lies within the eye of the beholder. Skewed perspectives cloud the essence. We navigate a world of dualities, grasping for equity, but drawing lines drawn in the sand. What if true justice demands uncomfortable conversations? What scares us so deeply about surrendering certainty? History teaches us that those at the zenith often craft the narratives, allowing justice to slip through their fingers, only to be repackaged as righteousness. Strikingly, we uphold values and freedoms while cloaked in contradictions. As long as we demand justice for ourselves and our kin, the cycle continues. It poses an uncomfortable truth. Do we yearn for collective healing, or merely our own kind of vindication? Perhaps our heartfelt calls for justice validate our status, gravitating towards the safety of our convictions. What would it mean to truly embrace justice for all? When facts collide with beliefs, cognitive dissonance festers. Studies reveal that acknowledging others' grievances not only nurtures empathy, but initiates pathways to transformative justice. Can we fathom a world where recognizing pain fosters connection instead of division? As night unfurls, the reality of our stances looms over us, stark and unsparing. The cry for justice resounds hauntingly, unfulfilled. What remains for us to confront is not merely our desire to be right, but the tenderness needed to extend empathy beyond the periphery. In this intricate dance, we reflect on our motivations, caught in a tangled web of righteousness and self-preservation. And perhaps therein lies the haunting truth. Justice beckons, but its pursuit is obscured by the shadows of our prejudices. In this stark ambiguity, we are left to reckon with ourselves. We want answers, but can't handle tough questions. We crave clarity in the chaos. Yet, the harder we inquire, the deeper our fears dig their talons into our consciousness. What if the truth reveals a mirror we're terrified to gaze upon? The tougher the question, the more our minds quiver. Who are we? We ask, but only to silence the echo of the response. We want answers, but can we bear the weight of them? The pendulum swings, knowledge dangling just out of reach. The universal truth that the philosopher Socrates uttered holds: the unexamined life is not worth living. But how many of us dare to delve into the examination? We cloak ourselves in a shroud of convenience, settling for the superficial over the profound. Why, when the very act of questioning births understanding, do we recoil at the thought of dissent? And yet, beneath the surface, buried beneath layers of distraction and pretense, lies an unsettling realization. Avoiding discomfort may dull the pain, but it thickens ignorance like a shroud. Each unanswered question festers. We want answers, yes, but do we seek the courage to confront them? What if the answers stir a storm we are not prepared to face? But here's the catch. In wanting answers, we must wade through the murkiness of our emotional landscapes. Relinquishing control means surrendering to the unknown. Can we accept that real answers may not wrap neatly in validation, but rather tear at our identities, reshaping us? Such metamorphosis demands humility, a relinquishing of the dogma we clutch so tightly in comfort's embrace. As fear mingles with desire, it becomes clear we are forever caught in this paradox. The questions invite us into deeper thought, but retrieve the comfort of certainty from our grip. We must let go. Dare we to strip away our protective layers, to embrace vulnerability, even in the labyrinth of existential doubt? Or will we persist in our dance with ignorance, seeking the immediate thrill of distractions? Sit with this. What truths linger in the questions you dare not ask? Are you ready to dive into what unfurls beneath? And as we search for clarity, we may find ourselves enveloped in new uncertainties. A path fraught with more questions than before, a haunting existence tinged with possibility. We talk empowerment, but fear making mistakes. We wield empowerment like sword and shield, an ideal we clamor for, a virtue we display. Yet deep down, the precipice of vulnerability beckons uneasily. We are enamored with strength, with unyielding resolve. But what of the cracks in our armor? What of the errors, the missteps, the stories written without a script? In the allure of empowerment lies a bitter irony. The fear of stepping into our truth paralyzes us. We preach resilience, yet the specter of failure looms large. It creeps in like fog, veiling our capacity to embrace the totality of our humanity. Make no mistakes, we learn, but mistakes birth the moments that heal us. The infamous philosopher Foucault wrote of the care of the self, an empowering act that requires us to confront our darkest flaws. Can we dare to see ourselves entirely, mistakes and all? Mistakes peel back the layers of self-deception, unfurling our wounds for healing. But here's the paradox. As we elevate empowerment, we foster aversion to the very stumbling blocks that offer lessons. Why do we harbor such contempt for these truths? Are we not emboldened by the knowledge that growth arises from careening headfirst into the abyss of imperfection? To embrace empowerment is to embrace vulnerability. What are the real costs of fear? It keeps us trapped in the shadows of should-haves and could-have-beens, mired in the illusion of control. And yet, through these processes, we find the fragments of authenticity sparkling brightly beneath the surface. So, sit with this. Envision the spirit of empowerment birthed through acceptance of mistakes. Allow yourself to be fractured, but unyielding. Can you honor the courage it takes to trip, stumble, and rise anew? For in the endeavor of making mistakes lies the essence of true empowerment. We live overwhelmed, but fear stopping. The world spins in a chaotic dance, and we join the fray, buoyed by the currents of relentless demands. A fever dream of our own making. When do we get off this merry-go-round? Stop. But what if stagnation brews an unshakable discomfort? Inside the grind lies an insatiable thirst for more. But more of what? Productivity? Certainty? The relentless pull stirs a longing, yet it shackles with unseen chains. Is it not ironic? We flood our minds with stimuli, seeking solace in the sound of distraction. If even a moment of stillness arrives, it brings with it the heaviest weight: silence. What dwells there? In stillness, the corners of our minds unveil truths we've tucked neatly away. Maybe that's why we fear stopping. To pause is to enter the void, to face the raw essence of existence. The late psychologist Viktor Frankl argued that finding meaning in life is paramount, but we chase it in the noise, mistaking activity for purpose. We scramble, but often stagger in disorientation. The existential dread brews, begging for significance, while we drown out its call with superficial engagement. What if we reclaimed stillness? What truths could emerge from our fears? And yet, reality reveals, amidst the overwhelming tide, we might discover that pausing can wield its own power. To halt, to reflect, may spark an awakening. Are we willing to confront the stillness, to embrace the unease it harbors. Sit with this. What lurks in your silent moments? Will you heed the call to stop, to breathe, or will you continue to march onward, tethered to the relentless surge, chained to the illusion of busyness as purpose? For in the silence, we may find footsteps leading us to a path unbounded by the weight of expectation. We want inner peace, but fuel digital war. In this cacophony of screens, we yearn for inner peace. But tranquility eludes us like shadows in fading light. Scrolling through turmoil, we ignite the fires of digital conflict. Rage, confusion, joy, emotions dance like spirits across platforms, yet within, a void gnaws at our psyche. We perpetuate dissonance, contorting our perceptions of reality into sensationalist narratives. Caught in the grip of outrage, are we searching for connection or merely for distraction? The more we engage, the more we layer the temporal with the unnecessary, drowning out the quiet whispers of our own mind. Consider the paradox. Amidst this virtual war raging, do we not crave rest, repose? We long for harmony. And yet, the very devices designed to connect sow seeds of separation. Philosopher Marshall McLuhan famously pronounced, "The medium is the message. What message does our media convey? That conflict, disagreement, and chaos hold the reins of engagement. Can we grasp the delicate truth that seeking inner peace in a digital maelstrom demands fortitude, a willingness to unfollow the tempest, to breathe the calm? Sit with this. Can you allow the silence to settle within, even as the tempest swirls around you? Seek not to battle the external, but to reclaim the stillness that breathes life. Amid this digital noise, might we yet find pockets of clarity, echoes of inner peace resonating with our hearts, reminding us that the true war is within.